Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is the James Whale Show, but Andre Walker in for James Whale. Asher Gould, well, I guess, in for himself.
That's the main thing.
Asher, I have to say, that makeup today is just...
I've been on holiday for some winter sun.
Absolutely.
What are you talking about? I've been in Mauritius. You saw yesterday, yeah. Anyway, hi to James Wales. Yeah, look, my hand.
Asher,
no, well, I wear gloves when I'm sunbathing.
Asher, you've invented a new ethnic...
Michael Jackson.
Asher, you've invented a new ethnic minority. Right, okay. Let me just tell you a brilliant story, right? Which we're going to talk to Errol Musk in a moment about everything that's going on. But I just want to tell you this quick story. Right, so to understand this story, you have to understand that I'm in dispute with my next door neighbour for the fact that he always steals my car parking space. He's got 2 cars. I haven't got a car, so he parks on my car parking space. So I received a phone call today, and the bloke on the other end of the line goes, "Hello, I'm calling from Jacob's Bailiffs." And I went, "Right." And he said, "You have an outstanding charge for your council tax on the previous property. Did you get our letters?" I went, no, I didn't get your letters. And he said, "Well, you know, you need to pay X amount." And he told me how much it was. So I got my credit card or my bank card out of my wallet, and he said, "If you don't pay by 5 o'clock, we're going to take the white Porsche 911 parked in your car parking space." And I went, "Oh, you know something? I don't think I can pay by 5 o'clock. He said, "Well, in that case, we're going to tow the Porsche." And I thought, yes, let's do that. So, right now, somewhere in Ascot, there is a battle between Jacob's Bailiffs and the man who illicitly parks his Porsche on my car parking space. Right, I hope you've had a lovely night, all of you. And also, if you are from Jacob's Bailiffs, enjoy the Porsche 911. Yeah. It isn't mine.
Take it for a spin. Yeah,
just,
it's a great car.
Fill your boots, and if the Royal Borough of Windsor Maidenhead want it, give it to the mayor, have it as the new mayor's car. That's my advice. Anyway, so, by the way, just to explain, because I don't want to sound like I'm being dodgy, I did email the council and organise the payment, so it's all fine, but I thought...
Only after they've taken the car away.
Well, I do think that when the bloke goes, "It's not Andre Walker's car," they'll go, "It's in his bay," and "Why is it in his bay?" etc, etc.
Well,
anyway,
I think it's actually theft.
Anyway.
I think it's car theft.
Yeah, that's right.
By the bailiff.
Well, look, they've stolen the car. Yeah. Somebody's trespassed on my property.
They don't care.
Let's be clear, this is late night radio, so I can swear. It's all just a big shitty mess going down in Ascot at the moment. Anyway, we've got a brilliant show today. We've got Errol Musk coming on just in a second. We've got Chris Middleton, he's the former BBC newsreader who created Freezing This Christmas. He's been sacked as a result. We've got somebody talking about why they don't wear their trousers on the tube. Don't fully understand that. And we've got Lois McClatchy-Miller and Dr. Callum McClatchy-Miller, who is not, in fact, called Dr. Callum McClatchy-Miller, but we call him that.
He refused to take
we just don't want sexism on the show. They're talking about grooming gangs. But anyway, kicked off Good Morning Britain for saying that Tommy Robinson was the new Nelson Mandela. Errol Musk joins us. Errol, look, I think I can, in my mind, imagine why you said it, but why don't you just lay out the case for Tommy Robinson being the new Nelson Mandela?
Well, thank you very much. Yes. No, what I said was that many leaders in the modern world and even in the past few hundred years were at some time imprisoned by the opposition. So yes. In this case, you have the same thing. You have Tommy Robinson, who's been imprisoned on sort of very, very flimsy reasons and placed in solitary confinement. So in that respect, he's very similar to someone like Nelson Mandela, who was in fact a vastly more prolific scoundrel in his day than Tommy Robinson ever would have been, you know?
They don't always turn out good. Look at Adolf Hitler. He went to prison and things went downhill from there, didn't they, with him? So I'm not comparing anyone to him, though, like some people do.
Yeah, so did Mussolini, so did Ho Chi Minh, so did Nehru. And you can just go on and on and on.
Some of them turn out all right, some don't.
Errol, is your view fundamentally, and it appears to be the view of Elon, that that Tommy Robinson fundamentally is a political prisoner, and what you are interested in is what he's saying, the claims he's making? Because one thing I will say to you, Errol, that annoys me, when people go, do you know about Tommy Robinson? Yes, I know everything about him. I know his job, I know what convictions he's had, I know everything other than whether he's right or wrong. That's the one study that we're unwilling to do. Is that roughly your view?
Well, you know, I mean, Tommy Robinson is well known for having drawn attention to the gang rape gangs. So I think in that respect, he's done a great job.
In fact, Elon picked it up from him, didn't he? He basically picked it up from Tommy Robinson, and Elon tweeted it out, and it became this furore. So it came from him originally.
Yes, possibly. All I know is that from what I can see, and I'm not stupid, I've been around a long time, you know, this Tommy Robinson deserves a proper hearing. He needs to be released. He's a political prisoner, and he needs to be released. And there needs to be a proper, non-partisan, independent inquiry that must come up with results in about 4 weeks. Within 4, maybe 6 weeks, a complete explanation of this gang rape, gang stuff.
Well, that's the main thing, isn't it? People are deflecting by going on about Tommy Robinson or Jess Phillips. And forget all that. There's girls being raped and tortured right now. I think they should forget an investigation and just go and all police forces should set out a task force and rescue the girls and then have the investigation who's to blame, because it's a national emergency.
Yes, having an inquiry is a national emergency right now. This is not a joke. This is not something that you can shelve and ask some silly commission to come up with an answer in 5 years' time. No, no, no. People want to know now. Everyone wants to know now. And it's not only, you know, I've been asked, what's it got to do with me? I'm an Englishman. I live in one of the far-flung regions of the world that England created. My family live in England. We are all children of England. England helped us when we were battling, and it's now our turn to turn back and see what we can do to help England.
Errol, you know, yesterday, and this is a sad thing, the United Arab Emirates put 11 people living in Britain onto their terror watch list, and there are 8 British organisations now that are prescribed terrorist organisations. Errol, I just want you to talk, not necessarily as yourself, not as Elon Musk's father, but just as somebody who is English by sort of history and heritage.
Your mother was from Liverpool, wasn't she?
About the fact that we now have a serious Islamic nation claiming that we are harbouring jihadists that are a threat to their national security. How on earth is this viewed amongst the people that you talk to?
No, I mean, it's absolutely shocking. You know, I mean, you know, this is not England. England is the place we look to for example. You know, if we don't know what to do, we say, what would England do? You know, when I say England, I mean the 4 places in England, you know. I mean, yes, we now have England being taught lessons by other somewhat lesser countries, if you ask me.
Yes.
You know?
Why has that happened, do you think? Is it because, you know, we haven't had any major wars and we've gone all soft, and when you become soft, you sort of become liberal?
Well, there's a certain amount of truth in that. On the other hand, you know, the direction in England has always been to give everybody a break, try and give everybody a chance. It's always been like that, and it's perhaps gone a little too far, maybe a little too far. But you know, in my opinion, the English way has always been the right way. So we need to simply have a proper investigation into this incredible stuff.
So Errol, let me ask you this. I've never spoken to you before, but obviously I think that anyone in my position who's a Conservative commentator will have a great deal of respect for what your son's done, not just on the Tommy Robinson thing, not just on both encouraging Farage and having a go at him when he disagreed with him, both of which I think were useful, if I'm being honest, but also the purchase of Twitter. What is he up to? Because we're hearing today that he is absolutely desperate to assist the Brits in this, probably for the same reasons that you do, and is now in discussions potentially to assist the removal of Keir Starmer. What's your take on that?
Yes, I completely agree with my son. Completely, totally agree with him. But you must remember, it's just that he's a very outstanding individual, and as a result, people can hear what he says. But many, many people, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, are saying the same thing as Elon. It's not just Elon. It's just that Elon is more visible, you know.
And he shoots from the hip, doesn't he? When he thinks something, it's the same with his businesses, and it's why he's been successful in the rockets and everything. It's because when he thinks something, he's sort of he'll go for it. And, you know, maybe the Jess Phillips tweet was a bit, you know, heavy-handed, but he's made a point, and the important thing is to find these girls and look into what happened, and he's been the catalyst for that.
Yes, no, he doesn't play around. One thing I can say about my son, he doesn't mess around. So you can take him at his word. He thinks very carefully before he says anything. He doesn't just come up with stuff, you know, from the hip. He really does think about it before he says something.
But then he goes for it, doesn't he? He's very one-directional. If he thinks he's a conviction politician, he will be, I suppose, in a month.
Yes, no, you can bank on Elon. You know, what he says you can take to the bank. He's just one of those type of people you can do that about.
Can I ask you this question about him? Right, this is a bizarre question to ask about one of the richest and probably one of the most powerful people in the world. But I will tell you, in recent years, seeing big businessmen, seeing powerful people actually advocate for ordinary people is really weird. Right, you know, obviously we've all got this World Economic Forum, we've got the subversion of democracy. You know, does he have any friends in the billionaire class? Because it seems to me that all the rest of them are just, having got to a position of power, they've now booted that opportunity out the way for everybody else.
No, he has many, many friends in the billionaire class. Many, many friends. Some of them he's made billionaires. So, yeah, he has many, many friends. Don't worry about that.
He's an inventor rather than, you know, his great invention and pioneering is what makes him a great businessman. He's not really a businessman. He's an inventor and a visionary, isn't he? And that's what makes him the billions.
Absolutely, absolutely correct.
Where do you see this going next with Elon and Tommy Robinson? I mean, Tommy Robinson has colossal legal fees. I mean, the $100 million donation to Reform looks like it's not going to happen. Will he be financially supporting Tommy Robinson?
I can't say. I don't see why not. Tommy Robinson shouldn't be in a position where, because of lack of funds, he can't do anything. You need to give him a chance. Tommy Robinson, to us, shows strength. He shows manliness. We don't see that anywhere else. I was the first person to say last week, I think it was, that Nigel Farage, to me, doesn't project strength. He talks sense, but you need a strong man to do what is necessary in England right now.
Would you back Tommy Robinson for Parliament?
Yes, absolutely.
You said he'd be Prime Minister, I think I saw you saying, that Tommy Robinson will be Prime Minister. Didn't you say that once?
Yes. You know, history teaches you that it's people like Tommy Robinson that will in due course be the Prime Minister of your country.
Wow. Okay, well, look, Errol,
and on that bombshell,
Errol, I don't know what more to say, but I will say one thing. You know, it's really lovely to hear somebody who has a background from the United Kingdom to speak so glowingly about us. And do you know what? Well, the amazing thing is to think that our friends in America, our friends in Australia, our friends in South Africa, New Zealand, all of these places are rallying round us at a difficult time because, as you know, uncontrolled immigration has done significant harm to this country. But it's good to know that we've got people that will help us with that fight back.
Well, Errol looks up to us, don't you? Because we're Englishmen. You look up to us when we came to South Africa in our suits and our monocles.
Yes, of course. No, we are all English people, you know. Let's get real.
Yeah, man.
Okay, thank you so much. That is Errol Musk. Well, he is the father of Elon Musk, but I have to say, also a phenomenon in of himself. By the way, I just have to say, I think that is a real bombshell, the confirmation that Elon Musk will consider giving money to financially support Tommy Robinson, and also that they, as a family, believe that he's the right man to be Prime Minister. I think that's a phenomenal thing. So thank you so much for Errol coming on. You get it all here. And with that in mind, we're going to be talking to the BBC correspondent who was sacked as a newsreader for that freezing this Christmas. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, in fact, this is Talk. Yeah, OK, well, I think what we need to do now is we need to talk to the chap from the BBC who got sacked. But before we do, let's watch the video that he made, which I think is brilliant.
Roll and read tea.
It'll be freezing this Christmas while our money goes abroad. It'll be freezing this Christmas. Rachel Reeves is a fraud. It'll be cold, so cold, without fuel at home this Christmas.
So they raised 50 grand for Age UK. We had a bit of a debate about which one that was, but OK, it's Age UK, and the BBC are not very happy about it. Had it been Badenoch's going to lose the election next year by Gary Lineker, they'd have probably knighted him. But anyway, Chris Middleton is with us. Chris, first of all, I think we should thank you on behalf of the country for the money that you've raised for Age UK.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on.
It's ended badly, though, hasn't it? Can you explain what happened? Do us a favour, explain to me how you came up with the idea of doing this and what happened after that.
Sure. Well, the initial idea was just a bit random, really. It sort of came into my head, and I thought it was a good idea, which is why I pursued it. You know, we all have a sort of a million ideas all the time, and we kind of just leave them by the wayside. This one I thought was quite good. Maybe could raise some money, so I thought I would pursue it. And then obviously it has this political angle. It is, of course, against the government's policy, so it's against the government.
And therefore the BBC, because that's their political media organ.
Well, yes, exactly. So what can you say? I was going against the government. I lost my impartiality by doing that, and therefore...
That was their excuse. And you were, a freelance newsreader or something, weren't you?
That's right, yeah. I've been a freelance newsreader for the past 6 years.
And they just stopped hiring you?
Yeah, well, I had shifts booked in all through December and January that were all cancelled 2 weeks
And did they literally say to you, we've cancelled you because we don't like the fact that you've had to go at Starmer?
Political bias.
Well, they didn't put it in those terms, but they said I'd breached the impartiality rules.
But did you ask them why Gary Lineker is still alive?
He's
leaving though, isn't he, soon?
I mean, I remember with the BBC, I remember when Gary Lineker started tweeting, somebody said to me, "Oh, Andre, what's going to happen?" I said, "The chairman of the BBC will resign in disgrace." And they said, "What?" And I said, "Because he's a Conservative and he's the chairman of the BBC." And they said, "What is the connection between Gary Lineker and the Conservative chairman of the BBC?" I said, "I've got no idea, but I guarantee you the end result will be Lineker will not be sacked, the chairman will be sacked instead."
They all went on strike on Match at Day, didn't they? Do you remember? Shearer and all that. And he showed that he had too much power there. They should have just got rid of all of them and used it to get some new people in. But their excuse was he's a sports presenter, so it doesn't really matter, you know, he's not news. And that was their mealy-mouthed excuse.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would argue sport is still kind of the news in a way.
Of course
but, you know, Gary Lineker is obviously got a little bit more star power, a little bit more pull with the higher-up people.
Nonsense!
Than I do.
Nonsense!
Don't do yourself down.
I will tell you that if we had a poll now of our listeners and viewers to talk, who do they prefer, Gary Lineker or Chris Middleton? Chris Middleton would win, although I will say, if there was a poll between who do you like more, Gary Lineker or Pol Pot, I think Pol Pot would win. So it's maybe not the best endorsement ever, but you can rest assured that we like you more than Gary Lineker, don't worry.
Well, yeah, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that.
What will you do now? Because presumably, in a time when the economy's going badly, you've lost a lot of income.
You could do a Rachel Reeves record.
Yeah, I've lost a significant chunk of my income from doing this, but you know, I thought it was the right thing to do, and I've raised a lot of money for charity. I've got the issue back in the news. You know, the government came in and they brought the winter fuel cut in July. It was one of the first things they did. It wasn't in the manifesto, and I think they thought they could do it in the summer. We'd maybe all forget about it by the winter, and I think my song has brought it back into the limelight. So we did that. We've raised some money for charity, and yes, I've lost a bit of income from it, but I think it was well worth it.
I'm just thinking out loud, having nominated James Whale for an MBE, I think at 50 grand you're probably competitive for a British Empire Medal. I wonder if we should nominate you under Starmer's government to get the British Empire Medal for services to charity. That would be absolute genius.
Let's do it. Let's keep the troll going. Why not?
Have you got any other jobs on the horizon though in the future? Or are you going to change career, or what are you going to do?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. So I was just a freelancer, so I do have some other work as well. So I'm not completely destitute, but I have lost some income.
What about now?
I'll tell you what we'll do right now. The producer will give you my email address. I'm going to ensure your CV gets to Denny Morris, the boss of this channel, simply because I think that, I mean, I don't know if there's any work and I can't speak on his behalf, but I think that we would welcome somebody like you, somebody who's stood up for the country, somebody who's defended the viewers and listeners, somebody that has raised money for charity. And
creative. I mean, the trouble with the BBC, it's not very creative. They're all just sitting around their offices, and it's because this is a commercial place. You have to be good at everything.
They found creative ways to abuse kids.
You get no banter at the BBC, do you? Because everyone's scared of saying something. You know what I mean? It's all silent.
I think that's a good point, to be honest, Ash, and that's partly why I remained as a freelancer there. You know, I was offered full-time jobs over the years, but it wasn't really my cup of tea to be there all the time.
And it's not the gravy train it used to be.
Will you be making any more songs?
Well, that's the number one question that everyone asks me. I've had the farmers asking me for a song.
Does Shamima know it's Christmas time?
There's loads of material. There's loads of material to use for it.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Who knows? Maybe this is the thing, though. I don't want to force it. You know, it has to be a good idea. I don't want to come out.
You don't want to be the Barron Knights.
I don't want to come out with a rubbish second song, and then everyone just thinks, "Oh, this guy's crap," you know.
Great. All right. Well, look.
The tough second single.
We'll get my email address to you. Let's get your CV in front of the boss. I will say one thing. I just want to make absolutely clear, because I don't speak on his behalf. But I will make sure he gets the CV, simply because I think everyone listening to this and watching this will say that the BBC is the wrong place for you anyway. So there we have it.
Thank you very much, Andre. I appreciate that.
That is Chris Middleton, who did that great. Let's have another bit of Freezing This Christmas, and then we'll go to the ad break.
All right, we go.
It'll be freezing this Christmas while our money goes abroad. It'll be freezing this Christmas. Rachel Reeves is a fraud. It'll be cold, so cold, without fuel at home this Christmas.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I don't understand why the advert is lots of views and zero snooze. It's the afternoon. We're not in Spain, right?
Well, it depends. I like a little siesta.
Unbelievable. Okay, right. We are joined now by our social commentator team.
The McClatchy Millers.
The McClatchy Millers.
Yeah.
She is called Lois McClatchy Miller. He likes to call himself Dr. Callum Miller, but he's been rebranded Dr. Callum McClatchy Miller. Obviously, they're married. Yeah, it's sexist, Callum.
I apparently don't have a choice in this anymore.
No, you don't.
That's not for me.
Well, look, okay, so let's start with this grooming gang thing. I know that you're extremely concerned about all of these issues. It is what it is. It is a country that is obsessed with never being critical of Islam under any circumstances.
I think this is one of the worst scandals that I've ever seen come across as a news item in the United Kingdom. All these hundreds of thousands, potentially, of little girls across the United Kingdom who've been so badly let down. And I think what's really important is not using this in either side for just winning political points, whether that's... Now, the left have to acknowledge that a lot of this happened because there wasn't freedom to talk and to criticise and to question certain groups, certain demographics and activities that were going on in these over 50 cities. The right have to also grapple with the fact that this isn't only about immigration. This is about the fact that all these little working class girls were ignored when they went to police, when they went to teachers, when they went to sexual health clinics with diseases and with pregnancies at 13 years old, and nobody said anything.
And the Tories knew about it when they were in government, and Labour did. But you're right, it's not a time, it's not even a time for an investigation. It's sort of a national emergency. It's going on now. There should be a task force in every county, and they should be rescuing these girls and do the investigation, find out afterwards.
Do you know what we were saying last night, Asher and I, or we were discussing this? I think we're both firmly of the view that the Prime Minister should call in Sir Mark Rowley, the head of the Metropolitan Police, and say, right...
And of all police, isn't he? He's the head of all the police.
I want you to find these kids now, tonight, and if that means you get a patrol car and do it yourself, you do it, or don't come in tomorrow. Because it's not a case of, oh, we'll sleep on it and have a think, or in 6 months' time. We know that tonight there are children chained to radiators being raped by gangs. Mark Rowley's sleeping in his bed. If I was the Prime Minister, I'd go round, I'd personally drag him out of bed and kick his lazy backside into a police car.
I cannot fathom who is advising Keir Starmer to just keep rejecting this inquiry. Now, obviously, we need far more than just another national inquiry, but we do need that. We need to have an oversight of all these different councils, different authorities, and what went wrong, and hold accountability. And for him not even to commit to something 6 months, a year down the line, not to jump on something to die, like, there's nothing.
But it should be secondary to actually going and getting these girls out now and making mass arrests now, and then have the investigation, rather than have the investigation and they can say, well, we can't talk about it for a couple of years, and fudging the investigation anyway.
It's coming across as he doesn't want to do anything at all, and we know that he has.
Well, we know why, because he was head of the DPP.
And we know that while he was head of the DPP, he did oversee some investigations from local councils, so he is aware and he does know, and he has done some action towards this. Why won't he commit to a national inquiry?
I said this to a friend of mine about the Catholic Church when they had the Catholic Church scandal. Do you know what I'd have done if I was the Pope, and thank God I'm not? I'd have stood up at Sunday Mass, and I'd have said, I want to read the following statement. As of now, at this time, the Swiss Guards have entered every single diocese of the Catholic Church around the world where there have been allegations of wrongdoing. All bishops now have been removed from office who were involved. They're packing their bags, and we have handed over every single file in the world to the police simultaneously. The bishops that have been removed are now being flown back to the Vatican to face trial. Kaboom! And it's happening right now. It's not happening tomorrow. We're not thinking about it in 6 months. The Swiss Guards are in these places, removing these people right now. You do that, that's how you stick it to the bad guys.
That's the action that we need, and yet nobody seems to be willing to do that. The Tories didn't do it either, and they knew about it too. And now Labour are humming and hawing and not. And I think, they put forward the schools bill, and they're saying, oh, we don't want to do an investigation because it will halt the schools bill. Don't forget about everything else. This is the national emergency of the decade.
I mean, I want to ask Callum about the NHS side to this, but I have to say the schools bill, I'm extremely worried, and I imagine you as a Christian activist, well, as a Christian comma and an activist, because I don't think it's appropriate to necessarily.
You're gonna get me arrested.
But I worry about the homeschooling element, because I think that the only protection left for parents against these crazed left-wing nutters is to say, I will take my kid out of school if you force them to amputate their genitals. And I think that threat, and I think what most people will think is, well, this is only an issue if you are a homeschooler. It's not. It's your final protection. It's your nuclear weapon to protect your kids.
Yeah, who has authority over a child? Is it the government or is it their parent? And there's so much in that schools bill which just chips away at parental authority, even like things that seem nice on the surface, like free breakfast for every school child. Of course, it sounds lovely, but actually it's a parent's responsibility to provide breakfast for their child, and we can empower them and we can give them like the necessary help that they need to provide that if that is necessary, but it is their fundamental responsibility. And the state to step in and say, no, we provide breakfast for all children. It's just taking a little bit more.
But that's what the socialists stroke communists do. They want to take the kids away from the parents. That's the classic way, and that's what they're doing slowly, you know, salami slicing kids away from their parents so they can be programmed in the schools.
Yeah, and, you know, being a parent...
I mean, also, I just need to be very clear. It is, and we've got a medical doctor here, I'm sure will agree, it is not healthy to pull a 6-year-old out of bed, get them ready for school, walk them all the way to school, brush their teeth, all that sort of thing, and then give them breakfast when they arrive at school, which may be an hour after they got out of bed. That is not a good idea, is it?
I'm not qualified to comment on that, the timing of breakfast, but I can absolutely agree that, you know, this is really just another set of intrusions on parental authority. And one of the reasons for that is that, you know, the far left and the radicals don't have kids. They don't like kids, but they want those kids when they're older to be on their side and in their sort of big Marxist army. Yes. And so, you know, the way that they get those kids is not by having them because they hate kids, is by indoctrinating them so that when they're adults, they will be like this. And that's why their number one tactic is take kids away from parents, even make parents seem like enemies, and even use that language at times, so that when they're adults, they will be indoctrinated.
Well, the Khmer Rouge got the kids to execute their parents. That's at the very sharp end, but they're sort of part of the same spectrum.
I worry. I mean, I've always said that you are a foster carer to your parents. The parent is now the state. The children's bill came in. I've always said the example that I give is that my mother overruled doctors and got me medical treatment when I was a few days old. I'm not saying my mum was better than a doctor. She was an accountant, but there is a mother's instincts. I think we need to ensure that is put in the mix. Nowadays, if a doctor disagrees with the parent, say on turning off a life support machine, it is for the parent to sue the doctor, isn't it? It's a complete about turn. What used to happen was there would be an assumption that the parent was right, and then there were legal processes to ensure that incompetent or violent or abusive parents had that right stripped from them. Now it is the teacher, it's the doctor, it's the social worker who's the primary decision maker, and if parents disagree, they can sue.
You don't even have to tell the parents, do you, in certain cases?
And I'll tell you what upsets me more than anything else is when you see these parents, God love them, go to the High Court to try and stop doctors turning off the life support machine, and the doctors stand in court and they say, we believe the child is brain dead, so it would be cruel to fly them to Rome to have them live on a drip for the rest of their life. Well, I don't see how it's cruel if they're brain dead, but then the fact that the parent believes something is not taken into account.
You're absolutely right, and there are contradictions in all of these cases. I remember seeing one a couple of years ago where the court, you know, the judge said this girl was completely unconscious, so she had no quality of life, and at the same time she was in intolerable pain.
Yes.
It's like, which is it? Is she in insufferable pain?
I remember one woman kidnapped her own kid because they could do proton therapy in another country, and the NHS said, no, it won't work, and so she actually kidnapped her own kid, took him to, I don't know where, somewhere in Europe, and it actually worked, the proton therapy.
I mean, parents sometimes have to try things like that. I mean, you know, the way I see it is, sometimes parents are wrong. I'm not going to pretend parents are always right. And sometimes, you know, if there is no evidence that a treatment will work and the child is clearly not going to benefit from it, then I don't think the parents can force the state to pay for a super expensive treatment that definitely will not work.
I do agree with that.
But you're absolutely right. You know, so many of these cases, there might be a chance.
Well, and the
parents are not even given...
But Callum, in many of these cases, what the impression is given, I actually don't believe this. I don't believe this. But the impression is given that we don't want to risk this treatment working because we didn't want to fund it on the NHS. If it's done in America and the child survives, it's going to look bad for the NHS. I just want to be emphatic. I do not believe that is the motivation of doctors. But I personally think that if you have raised money, and very often in these cases lots of money has been raised, allow the treatment. Now, if what you're then if you then get to the stage where, well, the child is going to be badly harmed by the treatment, then that is a different proposition, isn't it? But
there's an arrogance with doctors. I mean, I heard someone speaking on Ian Collins' show, and they said, "Oh, this NHS trust said she had 3 months to live." So they wrote to the NHS trust next door, and they said, "Oh, we'll have a go at this." They said she was too old for an operation, and they did it, and she lived a natural life for the next 8 years.
Well, it connects to the euthanasia.
There's a bit of arrogance, isn't there?
The euthanasia question that's coming up. You know, they're saying if you have less than than 6 months to live, the state can kill you, which is very benevolent from the state.
Yes.
Well, you know, the same is true when it comes to kids. We really often have no idea what's going to happen. And ultimately what happens in most of these cases is the state says, objectively, we don't think your life has value as a child. The parents say, actually, our kid is valuable to us and is valuable in their own right because they have intrinsic value as a human being.
Yes.
And the state is saying, well, objectively, their quality of life is bad, so what you think doesn't matter. The objective value of
that's the arrogance, isn't it?
But I'll tell you something. If you look at, I mean, James Whale is a bad example because he supports.
He's just generally a bad example. It's a very bad example.
He does support euthanasia. So, and I don't want to mischaracterise him on his own show. However, one of the things that has been true of him, as there have been medical advancements, this bloke has been on death's door for years, to the extent that, and it's quite unfair, people have started to question whether he's a sort of Walter Mitty character.
After doing his last Christmas show every year for the last 5 years.
But of course, you are in a position where at any point in the past 5 years, James Whale would have qualified for euthanasia on the grounds he only had 6 months to live.
Well, even Esther Ranson has recently found a drug that will extend it longer than... So.
Yeah. And she's been the foremost campaigner for euthanasia. But if she had her life ended only last year, she wouldn't know about this drug treatment.
And also, talk about contributions, though. You know, James Whale. Well, actually, I don't know Esther Ranson, so let's talk about James Whale. Imagine, so James Whale is fighting on. He's not. I don't think he's necessarily personally going to go down the euthanasia route when it becomes legal. But
he wants the option.
But he has contributed a great deal to this country. Had he killed himself? Sorry, had he committed euthanasia? Let's be polite. You know, he wouldn't have got his MBE. He wouldn't have seen Oscar Wilde pass out to the Royal Marines. He wouldn't have raised money for Kidney Cancer UK. I mean, you had that young lad, I forget his name, who was given an MBE on his deathbed. He was tweeting and raising money for the Teenage Cancer Trust on his deathbed, and then he coughed up a tumour which extended his life by about 10 days and raised another £500,000.
Wow.
You know, so all life can be useful. And also, if the only thing that a brain-dead child gives you is the ability to hug them, then maybe that's valuable. Maybe we're not the people to say, and if that person's in a dream... I mean, my mum said this to me once. Stephen Sutton is the name of the chap. My mum said this once. She was in an airport, and there was all of these sort of mentally disabled children. They were all, you know, they had various things, whatever. And my mum said, well, they're all happy, aren't they? I mean, they were having a lovely time just watching the planes go past. They could have sat there all day, right? Whereas we were all kicking off about being delayed.
Right.
And their quality of life is they're quite happy sitting watching planes for 6 hours. Well, what, you know, if he's having a good time, how is that less valuable?
Yeah, people say, oh, you wouldn't want to live like that, but they're enjoying themselves.
Yeah, we have such a prejudice about how people should live their lives and how valuable they are. I know there was a study a few years ago about people with locked-in syndrome. That's when you can only move your eyelids.
Yes.
And obviously we think that must be the most tragic thing to happen to a human person. How would anyone want to survive if all they can do is move an eyelid? But as they carried out this survey about how they rated their quality of life, not when they had just been diagnosed, but as they continued to live their life, they asked these patients to rate their quality of life out of 10. And what do you think they said?
Do you know what? I think they probably did exactly what Craig McKinley did, you know, the bionic MP who's lost his arms and legs. He thought to himself, I'm alive.
They rated their life at about a 7.
Yes.
A 7 out of 10, which is about the same as the average student.
Yes.
Well, Professor Stephen Hawkins, didn't he? He was like locked in, but for years he was having affairs with the nurses and everything.
I've always wondered how that works. But I'll tell you something. You know, if I had locked-in syndrome, you know, the fact that you can still listen to documentaries and things like
Watch
that,
Netflix.
and even okay, but I mean, it's not that bad, is it? I mean, we've got a lot of people who voluntarily sit there all day.
But there's a lot of technology that can help actually these days, isn't there? And it's getting better and better.
I mean, I'll tell you something. You know, if all you can do is lie in your bed producing filth with a bottle in your mouth like a baby, then first you enjoyed it. You enjoyed it when you were a baby, didn't you? And then.
Right.
Anyway, but on a serious note, I think all life is valuable. Yeah. All life is valuable.
And they can't tell when you've got 6 months. As a doctor, they can't really tell.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, it's just guesswork. But it comes back to this point that, you know, coming back to the quality of life question, who's a better judge of that? Someone's parent who loves them and sees them every day and cares more about them than anyone else in the world, or the state.
I mean,
and yet that's who we're giving this choice
Ironically,
to.
Callum, you're completely right. The case that I cite with my mum, where she says he seems lethargic, actually, that is a mother's instinct rather than a medical decision. But actually, I believe he has a quality of life. Without question, the parents are the people best qualified to come up with that answer. Anyway, we'll be back with Lois and Callum straight after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, we apparently this weekend on Sunday there is going to be the no trouser tube ride, which is where people come in wearing only their underwear. I think a top. I don't know, but you do have to wear underwear, just to be very, very clear. I had a terrible problem with that once. Do you remember those parties at university where you could only wear 2 items of clothes, which is supposed to be trousers and shoes? One of my mates came with a bow tie and shoes, and that was it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's not appropriate.
I remember people queue for the Hacienda Flesh Night like that.
Ugh, horrendous.
Outside.
OK, well, David Selkirk is the organiser of the No Trousers Tube Ride. David, just to explain, why are you doing it?
It's just for fun. There is no affiliation or anything like that. It is literally just for fun.
But the fun I have is get a pint and a savoury. I mean, why not consume pork scratchings rather than lose your trousers?
I don't know how much attention you get when you're sitting eating pork scratchings, but
a lot, because I can get through a large amount.
It's incredible.
It's
sight.
crazy.
It
Yeah,
really
people take photos of it and everything. It's disgusting, really.
But it's wonderful walking through the tube stations and the various points in London and seeing the crowd's reactions and the laughter that it inspires.
What pants do you wear?
We encourage people to wear as plain and normal underwear as possible, so nothing fancy or lingerie, like just normal.
Because it might encourage some men, they take advantage of that naked bike ride. It might encourage people with nefarious intent to go and get on the tube without their trousers on.
Potentially, but then they'll be in trouble with TfL. So,
well, no, because they'll say, "Hey, don't worry, it's no trouser day." Have you got them on now, by the way?
I did.
It's always no trousers day on this show. We haven't got any on.
I don't have.
Those are quite. I mean, it's fair to say that. So this is basically an act of sort of public comedy. Yes. The people I'm looking at. So obviously, a lot of people are listening on the radio. basically are just wearing very conservative underwear. In fact, with these with these ladies here, if unless you look closer, you wouldn't know they didn't have a miniskirt on.
They all go out like that now, isn't it? Terrible.
And that is why we do it in winter, because if we did it in summer, people think it's just normal. It's just tiny little hot pants.
Can we just stop this for a second?
I think it looks great.
I've got the producer in my ear asking the following question. Ask Lois and Callum if they're interested in doing it. Why would I ask that? What is the point? Two Christian campaigners, right, have come in to talk about grooming gangs. Would you be willing to walk round your pants? No, right? That's just utterly ridiculous.
What do you reckon, Cal?
We'll do pyjamas on the underground.
I mean, though, I'll tell you one thing, though. I thought it was for testicular cancer when I first heard about it. Have you never considered fundraising? Because if people are having a bit of a laugh about it, then maybe walk around with a little collection tin or something.
It is with any large scale event. There would be merit to having some sort of fundraising or affiliation, but there's so many to choose from, and the point of it is just for fun. That there is no affiliation, or there are very few events that in London or in the world that are.
Right, stop again. Right, what is wrong with him today?
He wants to know how we can join.
How can we join?
Yeah.
Well, we're not joining. Right, no. Okay.
How do we join him? Just whip your trousers off and get on the tube.
Yeah. I don't want to join.
We're all meeting at the pagoda in Chinatown, or the old pagoda. It's not a pagoda anymore. And we meet there at 2:45, and then we all head off together with our trousers on to Piccadilly Station. We all get on the same tube, and then as the doors close, everybody takes their trousers off.
What is the normal reaction of people at that moment?
Invariably, it's laughter and fun. Occasionally, we have parents wondering,
well, how far is this going to go?
Does it stop at the trousers?
Is it 50-50 men and women, or is it mainly men, or is it?
I would say probably 60-40, maybe 70.
And now the question that look, I'm here to represent the audience, because I think I've asked whether it's for charity. I've asked, are they mainly hot, or are they like? Because you see,
well, the ones on the screen are.
No, you see German nudists, and you understand why it's not a popular sport, right?
The hot is a very subjective term.
No, it's not. Are they hot? No. Are the women like fragrant, or are they the big fat ones?
Everybody is hot in some way.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Okay, they're so hot they've taken the trousers off. All right, well, Dave Selkirk, enjoy 4:45 at the Chinatown Pagoda if you wish to take your trousers off in front of members of the public.
I'll be there this Sunday, yeah. Well, I never wear trousers on a Sunday.
Hartley Brewer will be leading on behalf of talkTV. Okay, Dave, thank you so much. Now, turning to you two, I'm not even going to ask a question. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do multiple choice. Do you want to A, respond to what the NHS was doing about grooming, or B, respond to that? Which one do you want to do?
Up to you, Callum.
Let's go back to grooming.
Yeah, I think so. I thought you'd go for that, because I did want to ask you, Callum, on a serious note, you're a medical doctor, you spend some of your time doing research, but you do spend time in hospitals. There's no reason to believe you've come across any of these grooming victims. But first of all, when did you become aware of it? Was that in the context of the NHS? And what role does the NHS have to play? Because Lois has made the point, well, there were people coming getting the pill, morning after pill, and things like that.
Yeah, I think, I certainly knew about it through the news, not through work. Right. And I think what it shows is that there is a failure within the NHS and the healthcare system and the healthcare culture, really to protect people in safeguarding situations, but particularly when it comes to teenagers who are sexually active.
Yes.
Because we have this ideology of the sexual revolution. Fine, most people in this country, think do whatever you want sexually as long as you're not hurting anyone.
Yes.
It's a simplistic view, but when it comes to this, what that has meant is that people have begun to say, look, age doesn't matter. Age is just a number. Love has no age.
Yes.
And that means, if you're 15 years old, you can have sex. Your parents don't have to know about it or to consent for you to have a coil or anything like that.
Yes.
If you're 14 years old and you want to go have sex, if you get pregnant, have an abortion, your parents don't have to consent. Your parents don't have to know.
So they don't. So they wouldn't even know.
They wouldn't even know if you went through that.
Do you have the legal right to tell them? if it were you? Because, I mean, I know you're not in this position, but presumably you've been through medical school and you know what the rules are.
I think it's complicated if there's a safeguarding worry. Right. And in my view, I would say that there should generally be, by default, a safeguarding worry for someone at that age. Certainly if they're under the age for statutory rape, then there would always be, serious involvement.
But you don't have to tell the parents. I remember a law came in about 20, 30 years ago. You don't have to tell the parents if the girl wants to go on the pill and she's underage.
Yeah. So all of this stuff, you don't, unless there's a serious issue.
Just to be very clear, if there is a 15-year-old who asks for an abortion and, a lot of these grooming cases, because they were drug addicts and whatever, they've been made drug addicts, I should say, they weren't necessarily particularly lucid. I mean, would a 15-year-old going for an abortion automatically trigger a safeguarding thing?
No, I mean, you could argue that it should, but it doesn't. Yeah, exactly, but it doesn't. No, I mean, and this is true across the Atlantic as well in the US. Planned Parenthood have constantly got caught on camera offering abortions to young girls or people who are pretending to be young girls who come in with someone who's very clearly their pimp or abuser, in an acting situation, and they just say, well, we'll give you the abortion because that's what you want. And
I think that did actually happen with some of these grooming gangs.
I'm sure it happened.
Well, in fact,
hospital.
Andrew Breitbart, one of the first videos he put on Breitbart News was of somebody who was pretending to be a pimp.
Right.
Doing all this sort of thing.
Exactly. And it's a very common thing, for victims of sex trafficking. There are huge rates of abortions and STDs and all of this stuff. But because the culture is just, if you're young and you want to have sex, then that's fine. You don't have to tell your parents. And we're judgmental if we talk about getting other adults, and authorities or parents involved. Then that's what we end up with inevitably, and that's.
But they also worry about backstreet abortion, so they say, "Oh well, if she doesn't get it here, then she'll get it."
But we are so lax now in our abortion standards that you can, a 15-year-old could call up an abortion clinic and say, "Yeah, I'm 16 and I'm less than 10 weeks pregnant," and she can get pills just over the phone.
The reality.
Well, the chemist, you can get them in the chemist.
The reality is, and I mean, Callum can pull me up if I'm wrong here. I get the impression, and once again, I'm not having a go at the doctors because I think they're misguided rather than evil. But the safeguards of the unborn child that are provided by the Abortion Act are not followed in reality. The serious mental harm thing is just, I don't really want a kid. That's what it's turned into. The House of Commons, the House of Lords, never intended that to be what the rule was.
That's right, and you can so on the mental health reasons for abortion, you can go to the doctor and say, I want a baby boy. If I have a baby girl, it will harm my mental health. And then you can have an abortion because it's a girl.
Have they made that illegal
in this country?
They haven't made that illegal?
No, there was a vote to make it illegal, I think in 2015 or 17. And the government, well, I guess, even with the Tories in charge, the Parliament voted against it.
Do you know, I used to be against making abortion illegal. I wanted to stop it. I wanted to eradicate it, but I didn't want to make it illegal because I thought we should encourage people. But I've now come to the conclusion that with a falling population, actually, people who don't want a kid should have them anyway. Because, do you know what I mean? I mean, once the baby's born, there's very few people, in whatever circumstance, who once the baby's born, hate it.
But how can you force it? You can't.
Well, you can force it. You can just say, right, well, unfortunately, you've got yourself pregnant. We've had, we've brought how many millions of people to the country? We've had 3 million abortions, haven't we, since abortion was legal? If there was a 3 million more British people, then Amazon wouldn't be able to turn around and say, we have to start importing people from Syria.
I think it's more like 10 million since the abortion.
Is it?
We just have 3 million more people sitting in their houses or watching their plasma screens smoking fags on benefits.
The craziest thing about this is just was it this week, the article? This week, the abortion industry and the NHS have started complaining that because of the ageing workforce, they don't have enough doctors that can do abortions.
Wow.
So they need more young people to grow up so that they can do abortions,
so that they can abort the next
have fewer young people.
Catch-22.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I just think that clearly, if you look at the issue of population, where abortions are popular, they all have a population crisis. It's very clear that throughout human history, actually, the fact that you don't, if you have sex, you get pregnant and you don't have a choice and you can't divorce the two things, has clearly been helpful for society. Now, you can like that or not like it, and it's a bit twee to say that that sex is for procreation, but the reality is that is what has surged forward.
Yeah, but we've got robots coming in Japan. Because there's not enough population in Japan. Robots do all the work these days.
Well, they're not going to be able to produce any babies.
They just make another one.
They did in Terminator. Right, so you've got to be clear, right? In Terminator 2.
Press preview after the break.
Okay, if you want to call us 03444991000, please follow us. You can follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/Andre Walker. The videos are absolutely rabid as ever, and you can get Ash at Virtual Ash.
Virtual Ash at Andre JP Walker on Twitter.
And we're going to do the press preview with Lois McClatchy-Miller and Dr. Callum Miller. We'll give him his proper name.
Tomorrow's papers.
Okay, we will be back just in a couple of moments.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, Lois McClatchy-Miller and Dr. Callum Miller. Asher, what's
Dr.
the first paper?
McClatchy-Miller. Yeah, we're starting unusually with The Guardian.
No!
Yeah, it's about the grooming gangs, but as you expect from The Guardian, grooming gang rhetoric risks inciting massacre.
No!
The use of inflammatory language over grooming gangs risk vilifying entire communities and could lead to atrocities such as the mosque massacre in New Zealand that killed more than 50 people, the Health Secretary has warned. West Street, so they're saying don't say anything because the far right might come out.
This is exactly what they've been saying. This is why it's been going on for decades, because it's like, don't call this out. Also, by the way, as we said last night, by saying that all Pakistanis are responsible for this, so shut up, you are smearing all Pakistanis West Streeting.
And you're also smearing Andy Burnham now, who, according to Keir Starmer, must be far right, because he's calling for the...
well, we can only hope.
The inquiry. And another story there, cold snap hits UK's gas reserves. Apparently we've only got a week of gas left, so you better start collecting up some logs.
Let me ask Lois and Callum, how do you balance the need to be honest about what's going on without accidentally smearing people who've done absolutely nothing wrong?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to get the ridiculous notion that talking about this makes you far right off the table, because that is what fed this for 30 years. And this is why we ended up in the situation that we're in. So saying that people who are discussing this, raising concerns about little girls who were hurt, are automatically racist or automatically,
bigots, right, yeah, racist,
causing trouble.
But because it worked with the Southport thing, he thought, oh, I'll try that again. And actually, what he's done is pointed out he just uses it to, because obviously he wouldn't have known at the Southport riots what their political views are. There probably were Labour voters.
But in reality. What Labour are unhappy about is working class people having a voice, which is ironic. But I mean,
and they were mainly Labour areas, so they're all to blame. Some of them are MPs now.
If your daughter's been raped, been gang raped, and the police are on the side of the gang rapers, which no doubt they are, your local council is supportive. The MP will do absolutely nothing. Nobody in the media will report it. Standing up with a placard going, "Stop raping my daughter." I mean, what is it that the other option is? What is the next thing to do? And so basically what they're saying is, they're saying, it's not that we don't believe you. Our problem is that we do believe you. We can't allow you to be honest about this.
I think that there's a point at which Wes Streeting is kind of close to the truth. And what I mean by that is he's saying that there is a risk of serious violence and, really bad stuff. And I actually agree with that. But I think the reason for that is because when you make people silent about something like this for 10 years or 20 years, there will be a risk that when they're finally allowed to speak about it, things will blow up. And what that means is it was a mistake to silence them in the first place. Yes. And that was the issue. So I'm worried about this as well. I don't want people to get violent, and I'm worried that some might. But
you've got to be honest.
The whole reason for that was because we absolutely shut them up. And when you shut people up, inevitably it ends up exploding.
I mean, the other point to make is, if you say that it's related to being Pakistani Muslim, there's a huge assumption that's made within this, that there's something inherent about being a Pakistani Muslim other than being a Pakistani Muslim. And you think, well, that doesn't make any sense. But actually, if what you are saying, and I believe this to be true, by the way, is the police go, everyone else gets arrested and criminally prosecuted for this other than Pakistani Muslims, then inevitably the people who've got away with it are Pakistani Muslims. It's just by definition
and they're
true.
Enabled and feel braver to do.
But the reason I make that slightly complicated point is that all it's saying is this is the group the police singled out to not prosecute. It doesn't say anything about your average Pakistani. It doesn't say anything about your average Muslim. It's other than they have immunity from prosecution. And what we can say is that the vast majority of Pakistani men in this country, and people will like this or not, did not take up their right to rape children with immunity.
Well, the other part of this is, there's this assumption that ethnic minorities and Muslims and things need this kind of political correctness protection.
Yes. Right.
And when you speak to, most of my friends are Asian. My closest friends are Asian. I'm
not being funny, but as stereotypes go, I'm a doctor, most of my friends are Asian. I mean,
it's part of working in the NHS, but also for other reasons. They hate political correctness. Yes. They hate woke stuff. They're obviously not in grooming gangs. And they hate the fact that because this was silenced for so many years, now they're potentially risking this sort of alienation and criticism for them because they wanted that honesty up front. And, they will be the first people to talk about Muslim extremism and the need to...
Yeah, but the BMA is notoriously sort of woke and
crazy,
sort of left.
Yeah.
I mean, most of their votes are about the Israel-Gaza conflict. What's it got to do with them at all?
Are you a member of the BMA?
Absolutely not.
Because people don't realise you have to be a member of the General Medical Council, don't you?
Yeah.
You don't have to be a member of the BMA.
Oh, no way.
I'll tell you, I mean, I have to say, we had a caller, Ali, yesterday, who was making this very point. If I was of Pakistani descent and I was a Muslim, I'd hit the roof, because they've literally turned up in places like Oldham and Rochdale, the police, and gone, look, the reason why we're beating up all these people on the street and arresting them is because they're making public the fact that every Pakistani is a rapist. I'd go, hey, hang on a second.
Hung them out to dry.
I agree with them that children shouldn't be raped. I'm good with that, right? But there is this element. And I think Streeting is guilty of it as well, where you've smeared them all as well, massively.
Absolutely. You asked Andre about balance and how we can balance the conversation. And I think also a part of that is looking at where our society is to blame as well.
Yes.
And a lot of these, it is about these communities that were not prosecuted for what they've done, but it also is about poverty. It's also about class judgment.
Yes,
it's also about family breakdown. Some of these girls had parents who cared, and they went to the police and they couldn't get people.
But most of them didn't.
But a lot of them didn't.
Yes.
A lot of them didn't have dads, or didn't have mums who were there or who cared. Yeah. And that is something that we have to think long term.
Yeah, but our viewers and listeners like you, because they agree with you that family breakdown is a significant thing. But I mean, as far as the BBC goes, as far as Sky goes, as far as ITV goes, you are from the Stone Age, right? You know, I mean, we are told that these views are horribly unfashionable. Our viewers and listeners are sitting there thinking, you know what? If that kid had, where is the father? Lois McClatchy-Miller comes on going, absent.
Yeah. No,
yeah, but they could be showing. I mean, the children's home totally neglected. You know, a lot of them.
Well, that's also true. That did happen as well. Yeah. I mean, they were like many authorities let them down. But first and foremost, a lot of their parents weren't there. And you know, we talk a lot about different disadvantages that we have inherently, right? If it's our class or our race or whatever it is. But very few people talk about the disadvantage of not having an intact family, and it's something that affects children.
Because the problem is you don't want to attack people who, through no fault of their own, are single parents and whatever. And I think you can do both. I think you can say that it is... I mean, look...
But that's a bit victim blaming. Ultimately, the perpetrators are the ones 100% responsible.
Yeah, sure. The perpetrators are absolutely responsible, but we also, like, the British society also let those girls down. There's a responsibility and accountability.
I saw a Sikh guy speaking, and he was saying, we taught our girls, you know, these are the signs you're being groomed, and Hindu girls, but, you know, the white working class girls from the homes of vulnerable ones who then got pumped full of drugs, you know, they weren't told any of that.
They weren't, and also, you know, they're children, so even if you gave them all the kind of grooming training in the world, if they think that they have a boyfriend who's 30 and thinks they're special, I mean, ultimately, a little girl, she can never really be responsible for who she believes or what she believes, but a parent, a empowered parent, can make the decisions, can make the actions.
But the problem is, if you appeared, and look, Lois, I agree with you, I think you're right, but if you appeared on BBC Question Time and said that, they would probably haul you out of the studio on the grounds that oh, you're holding the victims to blame for this. What you're actually saying is, you know, at the end of the day, where society breaks down, bad people will prosper.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not blaming anything on the victims at all. I'm saying that there's more perpetrators than there seems. There's multiple perpetrators, there's multiple people to blame, and they can't be left unaccountable.
And actually, the latest, and let's be honest, when we had the whole Welsh care home scandal and other care homes around the country, this was once again right on social workers thinking that sex with kids was okay. They've basically done this again, haven't they? They've just gone, well, look, this is just part of life. I mean, that example I gave yesterday of the girl who came to because the drugs wore off, managed to free herself, got into a taxi, got to Oxfordshire Social Services, and they wouldn't pay for the taxi and called the groomers back to pay for it, and she was taken back drugged and gang raped. And that's the social. And
that is enabling them, and that means that a lot of them were in the open, and the whole, you know, area knew who the people were, and this is because of what you're saying. They were let down by authorities.
Yeah, they were let down on all sides, and
anyway, I will say one thing, that we've created a record today. Asher Gould has had a serious discussion about something in The Guardian. That never happened.
Enough of that. The Daily Mail, there's a lovely picture of Paul McKenna at the top. Transform your life with power manifesting. Look into the eyes, not around the eyes, into the eyes. Now, and then the main headline, now Labour plots delay to defence boost until 2030s. Labour's pledge to increase defence spending could be delayed until the 2030s, despite warnings it will put Britain's security at risk. And as Reeves flees the market turmoil to cosy up to one of our biggest foes, she's in China, looking at how the real communists do it. But what do you think about this?
She self-defines herself as an economist, doesn't she?
I mean, she has crashed the economy now. I mean, it is, according to what Labour would say a few years ago, Liz Truss has done a worse job. She should be out of there. But they're going to have to cut a lot of costs, and this defence spending going to be delayed till 2030s. Our army's not in a very good shape, is it? I mean, everything's not in a good shape.
2030s is perfect timing, because right now we're in the most peaceful era.
That's right. We won't need an army in 2030.
Why do we need an army?
I shouldn't worry too much about the whole thing. I'll tell you one thing. Do you know the danger of the world war? The biggest danger is not Ukraine, it's Vladivostok. Right, because you think to yourself, there's Manchuria that bit of China which is in Russia, the Chinese have always wanted. Now, let's just be clear. If you were to attempt to invade Russia as China, when would you do it other than now? Have you noticed that President Xi has been much more aggressive with Vladimir Putin, cutting off supplies, weakening the country? I will tell you, if the Russian Federation collapses, and it might, and there is an invasion of Manchuria, it will really kick off.
Yeah, gosh.
And £10 off in boots. But only if you spend 50 quid, so not going to do that, are you? Especially after that boots advert.
No, I'll tell you what we'll do. I always say this to you, Asher, at about 15:15. Yeah. Let's take an early bath on the break and go to the sun straight after this.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is the James Whale Show. Andre Walker in for James Whale, obviously Asher Gould. And by the way, the bloke sat next to me is Asher Gould. He's just gone a bit wild with the makeup today.
Hello, bargain hunters.
it looks like Aslan from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. But anyway,
I like him.
Okay,
he's all right.
So I'll tell you what we'll do. James Whale, I just want to say, is ill, but look,
he's only had the flu.
He's going to... Yeah, that's right. I was trying to say this politely. He has only got the flu.
Moan.
Anyway.
No, but he has been in hospital, but he's out now.
He sent us a clip. Let's have a watch.
We're a bit knackered with the flu. You've had it, and I'm still going through it.
I think we're both looking a little bit haggard, aren't we?
Haggard?
We're not looking our best.
We're not really looking our best. As you can hear, I'm not. Anybody who's got this new flu... you knock everything on the floor, Tom. That doesn't really matter. But I wish you well. And listen, Ash, you behave yourself, okay? Because without me there, I mean, he's not... Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't behave, does he?
He's more fun when he doesn't behave.
Yeah. And, I don't think I'm got enough in me to wind people up and start arguing, really.
I think the journey to it will probably make you a bit tired at the moment.
Yeah, I think probably... We'll just
Since
try.
You can't actually manage to walk to the front door without getting worn out.
Yeah. And I had a sneezing attack, which was just mad earlier.
And of course, because it was you, it was very dramatic.
Yes, you accused me earlier of being a
drama queen.
Drama queen. I couldn't believe it. I mean, honestly,
how could I do that to you?
So
untrue.
Pretty ill, really. I mean, I'm not a drama queen, am I?
Well, you're probably milking it a bit.
Well, possibly. So anyway, listen, Ash. You and the guys, behave yourselves, have a nice show tonight, and hi to all the audience, and see you soon, hopefully.
And I'm going to go and dish up your pie and mash.
Ooh, nice.
Lazy. Make sure you're here next week.
Oh, unbelievable.
But that'll be you in 50 years. No, I'm joking.
50 years. It was 30 when the joke was written earlier. No, actually, do you know what we've got to do? We've got to just deny that, because the problem is there are a percentage of people who believe the old crap that we make up. There is no comedy writers on this show. I think that's pretty obvious, isn't it?
There's no comedy. It's a serious, hard-hitting show.
A serious, hard-hitting show with you. I mean, have you even brushed that?
What do you mean? Yeah, it just takes ages to get it like this.
What?
Smooth and cream. Yeah, you've got a quiff. It's Tintin, doing the show with Tintin. No, I like it. Don't ruin it.
Look at that.
He comes in with a Gaza cut and goes, and then comes on like Morrissey.
Do you know? I come in with a beard and my hair down. I look a bit like Gary Barlow when he hit the bottom.
Yeah, in the 90s. Yeah.
But anyway, okay, on to the Sun. Oh, I hate stories like this.
Well, sex tape Prem ace arrested on the pitch. It wasn't actually during a match. It was in training, and basically a Premier League footballer was arrested in front of his teammates.
So basically, somebody has made some sort of a sex tape and he's been arrested for it.
But cops have decided not to take action. He could play this weekend.
I'll be honest with you. I don't care. Do you care?
It's not my top story.
Oh, no. No.
How gig spender, how Tay's tickets compare. I think that's something to do with Taylor Swift. And
don't. Right. What you said was Prem star arrest on pitch, and then you started talking about gigs. Right, that's music gigs.
Oh, yeah, nothing to do with any of the other gigs with a double G at the end. Yeah,
right, now people are going to think...
To make that clear.
People are going to think we're sending a subliminal... We're not.
And Halls for £9.50. That's good value holiday. And this is the big story. Less than 1 week of gas left in the UK. Britain has less than a week of gas left in the stores. Turn your boilers... Oh, you haven't got them on anyway.
This story, we were talking about it in the break, Lois and I. This boils my blood, because first of all, we've only ever got 10 days of gas, because gas is big, right? It requires a lot of storage, and also it has to be stored under pressure and all this sort of thing. Coal you can just leave under some tarpaulin. Nuclear just lasts for ages, and we get it from places like Canada and South Africa anyway. We have a major national security problem with gas, but it's related to the fact that we're not getting it from Scotland.
Right.
And Grangemouth, 4% of the Scottish economy, they're blooming shutting it down. It's madness. Scotland and Northern England is full of gas, and we're buying it from Russia.
It's just
and Qatar.
And Germany's now in trouble because of that.
It blows my mind, because the SNP campaigned in the 90s when they were rising to power that it's Scotland's oil and this was our future and we were going to be an independent nation because we had oil, and suddenly they're in power and suddenly it's not our oil and we want rid of it and we don't want to use it ever again. We want to shut down the whole industry that we're supposed to build on.
That was madness, because an energy, well, you wouldn't call it an energy superpower, but a significant player in the energy market is what Scotland's got. Now, I don't want to be rude about Scotland, but it has had many problems in the past, and now it's got this thing, and it's completely destroyed it. But it's put the national security of the United Kingdom at risk. There is no reason for us to import foreign gas, but we have to, because we refuse to produce it ourselves. And let's just be clear. It's not that we don't use gas. We no longer produce it in the UK. That keeps Extinction Rebellion happening.
And we were energy secure, weren't we? We could, energy self-sufficient, I think, with our gas.
You know what? A big driver of it was because the SNP went to coalition with the Green Party for the sake of getting a few more votes.
Yes.
The Green Party only ever got, I think it was 2.8% of the electoral vote, and yet they governed our country for years.
I tell you, Lois, I do not understand why the Green Party exists. Because every political party is a crazed environmental loony fest anyway.
Well, they had their first councillor or MP for Gaza, didn't they, the Green Party? So what's that got to do with it?
They had the councillor stand up going, this is for Gaza. Well, no, it's not. It's Dewsbury Council, or whatever it was.
What's Aberdeen like? Because that was like the Dallas of the UK, wasn't it? It was full of oil billionaires. What's it like in Aberdeen now?
Aberdeen. Yeah, when I was younger, that was where all the rich people lived, and it was all this big booming industry.
Is it gone now because of all this
Yeah,
greenery?
A lot of people lost their jobs over it. I mean, they're telling us that it's all going to be okay because when we get the new green business in, it's all going to be based in Aberdeen and it's going to be great and everyone's going to have a job again. But it takes years to build up that.
But there's still oil and gas down there, isn't there?
No, they won't take it out.
They won't. Yeah, they won't work on it.
And also the other thing is we've got this ludicrous situation with the Taiwanese invasion. Basically, the Chinese, in order to invade Taiwan, need lots of oil. So what they're doing is they're getting us onto the rare earth metals, things like cobalt that they produce with electric cars, and they're taking the oil and gas supplies so they can cheaply build up their economy and invade Taiwan. Well done, Greenies, that worked. Do you know they're pumping more oil in the Middle East than they've ever done?
But now there's a big fight in the Arctic, isn't it? Because there's massive oil reserves under there, and now that it's all melting because of global warming, it's easy to get out.
Yay! Hey!
Back of the net. The Times on Saturday. Reeves, UK needs China, ignoring Beijing.
Do you know what that should be? You've cut that off. Reeves, UK needs China, comma, like a hole in the head.
Ignoring Beijing, and no choice at all, says Chancellor. Britain, well, we don't really want her. Look at what she did with the budget. She should just be gone already. Britain has no choice at all but to engage with China to boost economic growth. Oh, yes, she knows all about economic growth. Rachel Reeves has said, as markets forecast only one interest rate cut this year. The Chancellor arrived in Beijing yesterday at the time of continuing market upheaval in which the pound fell again against the dollar. That was because of a great growth budget. Yeah, while the cost of government borrowing remained at a 27-year high, traders pared back their expectations for interest rate cuts. Basically, we're going to hell in a handcart and they've crashed the economy.
Worse than Liz Truss, Callum.
Yeah. I mean, she's certainly bad. I think the thing here is the inconsistency. I think if you're going to have a moral approach to foreign policy and engagement with other countries, if you're going to turn up to the World Cup and say, look, we're going to take a stand against all this stuff, if you're going to sanction countries for not, supporting human rights, you can't then go to China and say, look, we want to trade with you and it's all fine. Because the reality is they have committed genocide against the Uyghurs, they have shut up churches, they have
organ harvesting,
all sorts of crazy stuff.
I mean, Callum, just to be clear, a quota on the number of executions where they have a mobile unit so they can sell the organs on the international organ donor market.
There's no waiting list in China.
And so, the question is this government going to have a policy where they take a stand on moral issues because it's human rights and things, or are they not?
Of course they won't. No.
And of course they will when, it's in their political interest, but... Yeah. In this case, they just want the money, they want...
Well, look at Saudi Arabia when they chopped up Khashoggi, and I think it was Turkish in the embassy, and everyone, businesses didn't go there, and then a couple of months' time blew over, everything's all right again. We can sports wash everything.
Right.
So with King Chop Chop or Prince Chop Chop. Badass Gran, meet the fitness world champion at 70. No, I was thinking this because, you want to get fit when you get a bit older, when you hit your 50s, but then there's also the double-edged sword. You go, well, maybe I'll have a heart attack. As a doctor, what should you do when you get to that age? Because you don't want to be going out jogging and dropping dead. How should you...
I think exercise is always good. You can always do
Tell that to the man who invented jogging and dropped down dead in America. Well, he didn't invent it.
He invented jogging.
He pioneered it. Yeah, no one ever thought about running. I look what I can do. Yeah.
That's right. Do you know, isn't it weird how some obvious stuff was invented by somebody? There was a bloke who invented the concept of running round the block as an exercise every day. Everyone was going, but why would you go for... What do you mean go for a run?
That was the American guy who dropped dead.
Where are you running to? No, just run round for the sake of running round. That's madness. Nobody likes running.
Yeah. I mean, my dad used to say when I was a kid, because it sort of started, I would go, what's that guy doing? My dad used to say, he's running home, he's forgot to put his trousers on. Linking back to the... So that's...
I think the best kid lie that I've ever heard was a friend of mine said that when he was a kid, his mum and dad told him that if the ice cream van plays music, it means the ice cream's sold out.
Yeah.
Oh.
That is horrendous.
So
that's not acceptable. Not acceptable.
That's worse than anything China's
done. The foods Britain's top nutritionist avoids. That's what you shouldn't eat, but then another person will come along and say
Pringles.
You should eat it. And hot flushes, hot sex.
Do you know what? I don't want to slag this company off, but I met a bloke and he said he'd made a fortune in the snack business. And I said, what do you do? And he said, when you get potatoes and you slice them up, for pre-made potatoes in ready meals, when you wash them, starch comes off them. If you boil that down, you can make them into a certain type of crisp. I went, what? He said, yeah, I invented them, and I'll give you a clue. Once you pop, you can't stop. It's the waste starch and water.
Delicious though, delicious.
From washing potatoes.
And nice and uniform as well.
Because they're not real. It's not real potato.
wow.
Who are Daily Star? Free £2
She's
shop
not real.
And we're 100% certain you should never give 100%. What do boffins say? Let's find out.
Sorry. Look at that girl. Look at the size of the hand compared to her face.
Look at her forehead. Yeah. The secret to a happy life can today be revealed. Never put 100% into anything you do, which is something we can 87% get behind. Yeah, so don't try too hard, because you're only going to get disappointed. Try a bit hard, but not too hard. Because if you fail, you go, well, it's all right, because I didn't try that hard.
The thing is, there's a sweet sweet spot, though, isn't there, Callum? Because there's always, I mean, there's that law of diminishing returns where you can get an A star if you do 3 times as much work as if you get an A.
Right. I think, yeah, ultimately, you know, you do what you can. I think there are some things you should put 100% into. Your marriage, your kids.
Oh! Yeah, you only say that because you're all there, right? Yeah.
Well, you didn't put 100% in because you only got half of her name.
Yeah, exactly. Your heart's not fully in it there, is it? Yeah.
No, I gave her my whole name, and I didn't take anything back because I'm a giver.
I just have 150%.
And the other little headline, humans no more use to AI. I don't know what that means. Maybe the robots were going to take us over, weren't we?
Database.
Are we going to take a little break here?
I think, yeah, let's take a break before we go to the Mirror.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, this is the paper review with Andre Walker, Asher Gould. We've got Lois McClatchy-Miller and Dr. Callum Miller. Well, let's say Mrs. Lois McClatchy-Miller and Doctor.
He put 100% into it.
Okay.
I think she's put about 85. Right, the Daily Mirror.
But let's not talk about that. You can't ask about Slimming World to a woman.
Slimming World, well, she's very slim, so I think she's all right.
Yeah, but
feel real good.
That's not the way women ever think.
Do you eat very healthily, Lois? Do you eat like all noodles and rice and stir fries and stuff?
I eat everything. So I eat all the healthy food, and then I also eat all like the chocolate and the crisps and everything.
So you balance it out. It's all about balance. And as a doctor, do you say, you should just not eat any sugar snacks, not drink a glass of alcohol, just have nuts and,
I think my example...
I love the way your description of healthy food was rice and nuts.
Rice and nuts. I mean, that's healthy, isn't it? Noodles, rice
to be a good
nuts.
healthy squirrel.
My granddad said to me once. My granddad said to me once, "Do you eat exotic foreign food like a pot noodle?" Because like the word noodle to him was a bit.
I remember when pot noodles came out; it was pretty exotic.
It was pot noodle, pot rice, and pot casserole.
Incredible, yeah. The range is incredible now.
So anyway, do you eat chocolate?
Of course.
My goodness, he only eats chocolate.
Yeah, sadly.
I can't stand it.
Really?
Well, that's not. I can't stand it. I think it's a bit crap chocolate, isn't it?
Really?
All chocolate.
Beautiful.
Like a dairy milk.
It really depends. I would say England has the best chocolate.
Yeah,
if you go to America, it's
America.
Well, they bastardised Cadbury's.
It's disgusting.
Do you know why chocolate in America tastes the way it does? Because they put butyric acid in
to stop it melting. Is this? That's what I've heard. But.
So obviously for us, the taste of chocolate mixed with acid is chocolatey vomit.
Yeah.
That's why when you go to America and you eat Hershey, you go, why does it taste like vomit?
Butyric acid is in vomit. It's in the stomach.
It tastes just like butyric acid.
Why don't they just put their chocolate in the fridge?
So basically, when you're a kid on Easter Sunday and you got a bit ill, that's what American chocolate tastes like, because it's a mix of chocolate and acid.
It's absolutely true. Gosh.
So when Americans were sick, they thought, oh, I must have eaten some chocolate. They didn't even realise.
So American chocolatey sick will taste like chocolate.
Right. They must really enjoy it.
So maybe they have
it cancels it out, doesn't it?
I'm not making that joke. Not making that joke.
No, but they put like marshmallows in Cadbury's now and stuff like that. A real bastardisation of it. And a serious story, my dementia shock. Former Premier League cult hero Dean Windass has dementia, aged just 55. That's terrible, and has spoken of his fears. He revealed he wept in frustration during a memory test before being diagnosed. The dad told the Mirror, "I'm worried, but he is coping with characteristic humour, saying I was delighted to find out I had a brain." So, I'll tell you what. Is that being seen more though? I mean, young onset. What's it caused by? Some people say it's cholesterol.
I mean, you can certainly get, dementia from, they call it dementia pugilistica, from pugilism, like fighting.
Well, he was a footballer, so
boxers
heading the ball.
I think he was a striker, Windass, right?
So actually heading the ball. There was the guy from West Brom.
Look, I mean,
and the NFL is.
I don't want to be a killjoy, but if it's true, and it appears that it's possible that heading the ball is leading to significant problems in later life, do we have to ban it?
They do want to ban it for children, didn't they?
It's a tough question, and the NFL has had huge questions
it's a completely different,
because they have horrendous rates.
Look at rugby, you get your neck broken.
Football becomes a different game without heading.
Right.
It does. I think it's a genuine challenge, and my instinct, as much as I want to protect people from dementia, obviously, is that we have to expose people to risks, and the sort of get rid of any risk and get rid of any sort of bad consequences. Culture just stifles creativity and it stifles humanity. And I think...
What about the Isle of Man, the TT rally? Because, I mean, I've seen that, and a woman lost 3 of her sons doing it. I mean, it's so risky. I mean, and I think
there's a balance, right? Like, it's, if it's too risky, then and so for kids, for example, maybe I would ban heading.
Some football clubs have banned it in training, apparently, maybe for the kids.
I mean, I would have thought that if all you do is head on match days, then probably that doesn't represent a risk, does it? Because at the end of the day, it is a ball of air. If you do headers 50 times a day, it's very different to doing it once a week for 30 weeks a year.
And with the old footballs that used to get much heavier with the rain, they don't do that now. They're the same weight, but they don't gather the water in. So
maybe they just need to change the ball. Just play with one of those like soft balls.
Beach balls.
Maybe.
But I remember I saw at TalkSport they sent in some device. It was like one of those boxing, sort of a padded sort of shield. I don't think it's not taken off or anything. I haven't seen anyone wearing it.
But I think the problem is it's not the pounds per square inch. It's the sheer volume of the thing, isn't it? So
it's the energy going through.
If you spread the energy, it's still whacking your brain around.
But if you ban everything that gives you harm, then you're going to have to ban smoking for everybody and drinking and vaping.
Well, they're trying to do that.
They are. That's true.
What's your view on boxing, though? What do you? I mean, it's really literally trying to knock each other out. That does cause irreversible damage to. We saw Muhammad Ali.
I struggle. Like I watched Fury vs Usyk the other day, and it's like I like watching the big fights and things. I like watching football. I like watching American football, and boxing is particularly challenging because it is so clearly so.
Well, you are meant to knock each other out, so you are hitting the head.
I honestly struggle.
I watched that. What's his name? Paul. Versus Mike Tyson, but I have to say I preferred the book.
That was like a fix, wasn't it?
Oh, that was a joke about scripting the match. I preferred the book. I can't believe that. I mean, a boxing match where the script got published afterwards. I mean,
I'm not very happy about that. I mean, Netflix, I had a few bets on that. I thought, well, Tyson's going to obviously cane him, and then I've lost a few quid there. So Netflix, out of order. Not that they
should have bet on, will it be a real fight? No. I preferred the book.
Right, let's go to the FT. And warring rich couples get private justice for quick divorces behind closed doors. Well, you won't want to talk about that with your 100% commitment. But apparently it's going to be easy now to get a divorce.
Sorry, is that Nicola Sturgeon climbing Everest in a week? Oh, it's the person under.
She's going in a Winnebago.
She's borrowed a camper van.
She's burying the skeletons there.
No, she's got a camper van, hasn't she?
She's taking them out of her front garden.
Sorry,
the SNP campaign bus.
I thought, well, maybe she's given up.
No, it's not. It's Jimmy Cranky anyway.
Jimmy Cranky. Who knew knew?
does it.
Who knew that the only 70s and 80s TV star wasn't a pervert, who was the one that got his wife to dress up as a little boy? I mean, it's just extraordinary.
No, it was a real little boy. It was the man that was the woman. No, I get confused with the crankies. Labour lines up fresh drive to bolster growth. Yeah, oh, great. Yeah, this is going to work after their growth budget. Gilt's route threatens policy agenda. Bid to avoid need for more tax rises. So that's her going over to China, and they're basically asking other people, what can we do, like Keir Starmer did a few weeks ago. I mean, they're meant to have the ideas, but they're ideologues, and they've come into the real world, and they thought they were going to be the grown-ups, and everything's fallen flat. What do you think's going to happen in this? I mean, this country is falling apart, isn't it?
I think we've got to have a big rethink, haven't we?
Yeah, of course. But I just feel like we've read this headline like 6 times only since Keir Starmer came into power. Like, how is he still looking for fresh growth? I thought we just had a budget. You know, like, how are we still...
It was a growth budget that caused, obviously, everyone was saying, well, this is...
He had no ideas going in, did he?
No, well, that's clear. That's clear. But you're right, I think, Ash, that there's so much focus on ideology and how things, should be in terms of identity politics, and all that's focus on things that don't really matter.
And the environment.
And the environment, and...
Forcing us to buy electric cars that are rubbish, that are not worth anything, that the battery goes in, that are too heavy, and that you can't...
They're right off after 6 years.
They're much more expensive, than petrol. If you haven't got one on your driveway, it's about twice the cost of petrol just to fill them up, and these are, twice the cost of a normal petrol car anyway. So
horrendous,
unbelievable. Firefight. California death toll rises as world breaches key warming threshold. I mean, this has happened because of apparently DEI hires are trying to save the smelt fish, so they diverted water away, so there's no water at the fire hydrants. They haven't cleared up the brush from the forest, which is, a golden rule of not having forest fires.
Right.
And the fire chief was just concerned about getting more women into the jobs. I mean, we saw what the women, security guards, the bodyguards with Trump, they were a foot less than him, and, it was just really dangerous.
Yeah.
So, when these ideologies hit the real world, it can cost people their lives.
It's such an indictment on Gavin Newsom, isn't it? I mean...
Yes.
And
along with many others.
Along with many others. And what's kind of sad also is that it's probably more talked about because it's Paris Hilton's house and it's Ellen... it's all the big celebrity houses, and that's probably why it's getting quite this much attention, which is kind of sad. I mean, if you think, even, with the Me Too stuff, that was when they all got attention for horrific crimes that happened to Hollywood elites, which are horrible and should be called out. But, the working class girls in the UK didn't get a Me Too movement, and people who tweeted Me Too didn't care about them. And, it's when it affects the rich elite, then we get attention on these issues, and we get inquiries, and we get to ask, why is this happening? Why were they not prepared for a natural phenomenon which was predicted for about 10 years that they would get these fires? Why were they not prepared for all sorts of scandals? But unfortunately...
But we accept second best. Actually, Callum, you're in the public service where you must not worry, but you are concerned about your patients. You don't just turn around and go, oh, well, 50 of my patients died, but hey-ho, I tried my best. Yet if you go to, Parliament, if you go to local authorities, if you go to the fire services, the fact that they tried hard and failed seems to be good enough. I don't think it's good enough. I mean, at the end of the day, and I don't mean to be crass, the taxpayer pays you presumably quite a good amount of money, therefore we expect you to be a quality medical professional, which you are, but we don't seem to expect that from anybody else in the public service.
I think it's part of the problem with just, outsourcing every single thing to the state is that there's no competitors.
Right.
I'm not absolutely pro-capitalist, pro-free markets. I think the state has a big role in looking after vulnerable people, in providing and coordinating public services. But ultimately, you need competition to thrive, because people are just bad in general.
So is that what we should do with the NHS, like the Israeli system, where they have a sort of NHS, but they have 3 sort of private companies that have to give the best? Shouldn't we have something like that?
I think the problem is the conversation on this is stifled, because as soon as you talk about any involvement, not even just,
it's a sacred cow, the NHS, isn't it?
They think, oh, you're going to take away, universal
people will die in the street.
I think you can have universal healthcare. You have, any person that turns up to the emergency department will be cared for, and they won't have to pay their thousands of pounds. You can have that while at the same time bringing in the benefits of the market. And that's just what people are too afraid to do in this country because they want to use it to scaremonger.
But we can't have an international health service where people come from America to come. And
but the most amazing thing where people go, healthcare should be about people, not profit. Bupa's a not-for-profit company. Right, even though Bupa is private, privately owned, it is not a profitable business.
Where do they make?
Well, they're private.
You've got to make a few shekels.
No, they're a not-for-profit business.
So everything that goes in
goes to charity.
Right.
Yeah. So when you say we're bringing in the private sector, it's all about profit. Right. Okay. Bupa is the private sector, but it is not in it for profit.
And also, I mean, just this idea that things should never be for profit. Right. I mean, maybe there are some examples, but like, why not? I mean, I'm a doctor. I profit in the sense that I earn a salary from this. Plenty, I think
what you have to do, where people get upset with things like the railways and water and things like that, is because what you have to do, profit is a trade-off.
Well, they're monopolies.
It's what you pay for competition.
Right.
So what you do is you say, I don't have a problem with profit because actually it creates competition that drives down prices and raises standards. The problem you have is when you're looking at the water companies where they get the profits but not the competition. Right. Therefore, the money that you're paying in profit, you're not buying the competition that you want. Anyway, let's take a break and we'll be back with the Daily Express.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk. This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, Dr. Callum Miller and Lois, and Mrs. Lois McClatchy Miller. Here we are, great.
Right, and to the Daily Express, and look, there's a picture of a lovely old lady on there with a pearl necklace.
I thought...
Oh, no, it's Rod Stewart, and he's 80 years old, but Rod's... Not. Oh, is it Charlie Mullins?
I thought
he's not done yet.
I thought Charlie Mullins had mated with Camilla Parker Bowles to produce that.
Yeah, a bit of Rod Hull about it. Yeah.
Rod Hull.
And Martin Clunes' sadness at tax raid on farming. Yeah, which never mind everyone else is annoyed. Martin Clunes is very sad about it. But apparently the farmers I was reading today, they're going to start blocking supermarkets. So go out and get your bog rolls.
I love the Martin Clune song from, what is it, Come Fly With Me. Martin Clune. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Nobody saw it. You had to be there. Just had to be there.
We all deny that we saw it. And, of course, 4 for 3, and that's pot noodles. You're talking about that early, one of the first delicacies in this country, one of the first foreign delicacies, pot noodle. 4 for 3 at... Cup of soup. Yeah, you can still get cup of soup and other things. Yeah, and all of those things.
Apparently they're really unhealthy powdered soups and things like that.
Are they?
We always used to have them as kids. People now get the carton of soup, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to be that pretentious, just boil up some bloody veg and throw some cream in, for God's sake.
Yeah, make your own soup. Win your food, shop for a year. And this is the main story on the Express. It's just not cricket to ban women. England cricket chiefs and players are being urged to do the right thing and boycott a match against Afghanistan in a gesture of defiance of the Taliban. Afghan rulers have outlawed women and girls taking part in sport and everything else. Since they returned to power.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's have a big campaign to boycott Afghanistan cricket and send Rachel Reeves to China. There we go. Lois, I think I've backed your point there, haven't I?
No,
Sharon Davis has joined 200 MPs and peers in demanding the English cricket. But it's like what we were talking about earlier. Why do you pick and choose? I mean, what about Qatar? What about Saudi Arabia? There's loads of countries that people could say we're not coming to the UK because of the human rights here. So, but it worked in South Africa, didn't it, with apartheid when they sort of boycotted sport there. So it's a sort of... I don't know what the answer is it?
It does make me laugh a little bit when you see kind of feminist campaigners in America or in Canada. I think it was a Canadian kind of sub-parliament last week tweeted, and they're all these women standing in defence of the opposed or the oppressed women of America. And I didn't see them do anything about the oppressed women of Afghanistan. You know, but you can get a lot of attention for the easy ones.
I mean, we saw when President Trump came to the United Kingdom, all of those protests. Some of them may have made a legitimate point about Islamophobia. But then President Xi comes and he's got 2 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps and not a squeak of criticism. Right. Not even the actual obsessive Muslim, extremists were bothered. Because the reality is, there's no
Israelis involved.
There is a thread of this, which is we want to beat the Western world.
Yeah.
We're just interested in having to go to the West. So cricket is seen as a British thing. Therefore, let's have a crack at that. We're not bothered about the football in Qatar. Who cares about that?
Or it's also about who's the victim, right? So in this case, it's women, which is one of the classes that people care about. But if it's Christians getting massacred in Nigeria and the Nigerian government not caring at all we cares about Christians?
I have to say one thing.
Or Easter worshippers.
I mean, as somebody. I mean, we had somebody phone in once who said that their mosque is full of gay Christians because of these people who've claimed asylum, and they're just fakers. But actually, the genuine Christians who are being oppressed get nowhere near our asylum system. Nobody's interested.
No, I mean, no one ever talks about it. No one really cares. But
Nobody
Christians are the most persecuted faith group in the world. Like, there's more. If you look up, if you Google Christians in Nigeria, my goodness, the horror stories.
Well, I've got a friend of mine who, and I can't remember. I discovered he was Jewish. And I was quite surprised he was so secretive about it. It's not that... I mean, you don't have to walk into a pub and go, hello, I'm a Jew. But, you tend to find these things out when you're friends with people. And he was from the Lebanon. And he said, please... do not tell anyone, because next time I go to Lebanon, I will die if I'm a Jew. Forget that they might daub something on my house. I will be killed. Yeah. And so you forget about the horrendous levels of discrimination.
And, we are losing our right to be able to criticise these countries because, a lot of the way that they discriminate against religious groups out there is through blasphemy laws. Be like, oh, you think that, you said that, then that's illegal and you have to go to jail or you have to go to death row or whatever. It's horrific. Now, obviously, we don't have anything close to that kind of severity. But in the West, we're introducing hate speech laws left, right, and centre, which are basically just blasphemy laws. They're saying you can't say that. That goes against my belief system. What I think, I think a man can be a woman, and you say it can. So you're blaspheming against me, and therefore you have to be punished.
Lois, the one that depressed me was I had a friend of mine, and he was on a private discussion forum for teachers. Now, the message was posted anonymously, so I don't want to be guilty of fake news, but a teacher on a forum where you had to give some evidence you're a teacher to get on it. So you had a reasonable expectation, this person was the teacher, said, look, in Islam, it is blasphemous to say that Jesus is the Son of God. Are Christmas songs therefore a hate crime? Because we're thinking of banning them in schools so as not to offend Muslim pupils.
Oh my goodness.
So you're literally saying we're going to make Christmas illegal.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, this is one person commenting once anonymously, so there's no point saying... And also, it wasn't a Muslim person saying it. But actually, when you play through all of this, you say, well, if we're banning stuff that insults your religion, Well, criticism of your religion often comes from another religion, because whilst you want to be very pleasant about it, the reason you're Christians is because you believe the Hindus are talking nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, that, whether you like it or not, that is a fact.
I know. So we're kind of allergic to just having a kind of truth position, right? We think we have to have my truth and your truth, and then it's okay because everyone can get their own truth and it's all fine. But there is objective reality. Like if something is red, it's not also blue.
And also the other thing is, if your religion is evangelical, and of course the Islamic faith is very evangelical, then what you will do is you will, even accidentally as a good person, go too far in trying to push your views onto other people.
Yeah.
I think that's inevitable, and we see it with Christians as well.
Yeah, I helped on a case a few months ago where a street preacher in Bristol, a Christian street preacher, he was actually arrested because he, and in response to a question from a member of the public, compared Christianity and Islam.
Oh, okay.
So he said Christianity's like this.
Well, we've got a bloke called Ken. He commits that hate crime every day because he makes the point that he believes that his criticism of Islam is that it allows violence in order to convert people.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that's true. I'm not an expert of the Quran, right? I've read it once and it was only quick skim. But he takes that view. Now that is very critical of Islam. But fundamentally, in a mosque, you're not going to stand up and go, oh, by the way, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, go down to your local church.
Right.
And in a church, you're not going to go, well, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, the Muslims might be right. Well, who's going to do? You don't go to synagogue, they don't stand up going, oh, I think that Jesus might have had a point. Nobody's going to be honest.
To be honest, if you go to some Anglican churches, they will actually say like there was this one, she was a priest in an Anglican church saying like, we are all Muslims.
Oh yeah, holding a sign saying we are all
Charlie
Muslims.
Hebdo.
But there was that woman, and I didn't disagree, at the Washington National Cathedral where they had an Islamic ceremony, and they said, we are here for anyone of faith, this ridiculous King Charles thing. And a woman came in and started shouting abuse. She was the monster. Do you remember the Monster Energy woman? Do you remember her? This can says 666. That's Vav in Hebrew. You can watch it on YouTube. Loads of people have watched it. So she was a bit of a nutter.
Right.
But at the same time, I thought, she's not making an unreasonable point that we're now giving the National Cathedral to an Islamic group.
Yeah, and you know what? We do have a lot. We have a lot of people with strong opinions. We have people who are nutters in society. We need to be able to allow everybody to have a space to voice their opinion and not just get arrested or, be
This country used to thrive on eccentric nutters, didn't it?
I'm a bit gutted, actually, because you know what? I would say there's not many things that I'm good at, but I'm probably one of the leading experts on political debate and discourse. I've printed out the entire College of Policing report on non-crime hate incidents. I've made notes, I've highlighted it. When the police knock on my door, I've got a good 6 hours of material to go through to explain why the College of Policing are wrong, and they won't do it. If they knock on my door, we just want to talk about this. Come in, please come in. I can explain in full why they're talking garbage, but I tried. I got it down from 8 hours to 6. So we'll see if any constables are up for.
I mean, they came for Alison Pearson. They may come for you.
Yeah, I wonder if any constables up for the full 6-hour version. We'll see.
The Eye weekend. And talking about King Charles, King accepts mission to butter up Trump, because he does like the royal family, Trump. Number 10 and Palace are exploring a second state visit plus royal trip for the 250th USA.
The reality is, this is diplomacy at its best. Trump will not criticise Britain as long as there's a state visit on the table. He
does like the royals, doesn't he? Although he did put his arm around Mum. So, yeah, don't do that.
When he likes somebody, he says he's doing a great job. And he said that about Prince William. Oh, there he goes. He's doing a great job. He's doing a great job.
In football, when they say that to a manager, it means he's going to be sacked the next day. And the other story, mortgage rates set to rise as Reeves faces crunch week on UK economy. Mortgage costs expected to climb in coming weeks with 2- and 5-year deals above 5%. Some Labour MPs are critical of Reeves and privately question whether her plan will ignite growth. Her days are numbered, aren't they?
I maintain that Rachel Reeves is finished under the following circumstances. You've got the statistics better than me, Asha, but Labour said that there would be 4,000 people killed by the abolition of the winter.
4,500, yeah.
4,500.
About 40 tonight.
Yeah,
thanks. Sorry about our government letting me down and freeze to death.
They said removing the winter fuel allowance will kill 4,500 people. The normal excess deaths over the winter is 30,000. I believe that if the number of excess deaths is published as 34,500 or anything similar to that, she's got to resign, because she's literally stood up going, I've willfully put this policy in place that I know will kill 4,500 people. If then the evidence that she was right comes out, then she's got to go.
Does that still work if they pass the euthanasia bill?
I don't know. Yeah, well, it's sort of
euthanasia
solve
bill's
a
just
lot of
outrageous,
problems. You don't have to make old age homes and social care. By the way, give us a ring, because the next hour it's just going to be your call, 03444 991 and you can voicemail us on WhatsApp voice message. So,
actually, you're out of time. You've only got a minute.
Yeah. Oh, well, quickly, the Daily Telegraph last paper. 1 week supply of gas left. Coal bites. UK, what's that say? UK troops may be Ukraine peacekeepers. This is a Trump deal that's going ahead. Unconditional discharge for Trump. He lost the court case, apparently, but there's no fines or anything. Fruit and veg prices set to rise by 12%. And number 10 set to axe billions from disability bill to ease debt crisis. Oh, that's nice, that is.
Hey, there we go. Well, thank you so much to Lois McClatchy-Miller and Callum Miller. I think it's great to have you in, obviously, particularly with all the grooming and the fact that you've got the NHS knowledge and the knowledge of all the legal problems that you help people with all the time. OK, that's our panel. We're going to be taking your calls, 0344 499 1000. How did I forget the number? That's crazy. At Virtual Ash.
At Andre J.P. Walker.
And after this, we're going to play the video of the James Whale has sent us, just in case you've just tuned in. It's relatively short. Also, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Andre Walker. Post videos there all the time. We will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, welcome to Talk. I'm meant to be here with James Wales. He's not turned up, and now Andre's taken a leaf out of his book. But anyway, give us a ring, 03444 499 1000. It's just your calls now. And there's only one way to start with calls, and that's Heather in Girvan. Heather.
Hello, Ash. How are you?
All right, Heather. Yeah, what do you want to say?
Well, there should be an inquiry, a national inquiry into the grooming gang. And they should also implicate all Labour MPs in those constituency areas of Rotherham, Rochdale and
who were involved in the cover-up, and the police, and, you know, the social services and everyone involved, and they should be arrested, never mind lose their jobs.
Even all the Labour councillors.
Oh, yeah. Some of them have become MPs. But don't you think an investigation will give them an opportunity to knock it into the long grass and we won't be able to talk about it because they say there's an investigation? Shouldn't we be doing a two-pronged attack? We should be rescuing, set up emergency task force all over the country to go out and arrest the perpetrators and rescue those girls, because this is a national emergency, and then have the investigation for who's responsible after, because the most important thing now, people are forgetting that by blaming this on that.
Well, it should be independent inquiries.
Well, yeah, but they never really are they? So let's just do that. Make that secondary to sorting out the problem that is actually happening.
Yeah,
there's girls getting raped, tortured right now.
Two birds with one stone. We've got the National Crime Agency. Why can't we use them to arrest these?
Well, of course, that's what should be going on.
These Pakistani grooming gangs.
Well, of course, that's what. Yeah.
That's what the National Crime Agency is there for. They should deal with these sort of crimes.
But don't you think all institutions are sort of captured and working together because they're all covering each other's backs?
Sexual abuse on a mass industrial scale.
And torture and murder in some cases.
An industrial scale. Thousands of innocent little girls are being affected. These politicians,
hundreds of thousands.
These systems, they don't give a damn.
It's evil, isn't it? It's actually evil, Heather.
Yeah. And what they should also do, make it abundantly clear if you get charged and you get arrested. Once you get arrested and charged, you go to prison, and then after you've been to prison,
you're out.
You and your family will be deported out of the country.
What if they're British citizens, though? Where would you put them then? I mean, I think we should sort of bring back banishment, and you should have a prison somewhere on an island where you can put people who hate this country, and if they can find another country to move to, fair enough, but they can't live in this society if you believe you hate this country.
We need a style prison system.
All right, Heather, thank you very much. Right, let's go to Michigan and our American correspondent, Cindy. Howdy doody, Cindy.
Hey, Ash.
Oh, well, he's back now. What you do? Where you been? We're all waiting for you. Yeah,
I tried to get through yesterday. I have so much to say. I'm so pissed off. And, I want to say, Ash, you know where it's at. Okay, right now, right here, if there are children in harm's way, you know what should be happening right now? Warrants should be executed and doors need to be kicked in.
Yeah, and mass arrests, all over the place. And then do the investigation. The most important thing is what's going on now.
Later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I want to know, Keir Starmer, who are you protecting?
I think
himself, for a start.
I think he's protecting himself. Let me ask you this, Cindy. When we had Errol Musk on earlier, he asked the following question. He made the following points. He said, look, Britain exported freedom, democracy, rule of law across the world. And there are many countries, including your country, which have benefited from that. Do you look back now and think, what on earth is the home country doing?
Right now? Yes.
And why do you think it is? I mean, because it happened in America until, obviously, now Trump's coming in and everyone's changing their tune.
Yeah, everybody's acting like, but we've been screaming all along.
Yeah, they're all...
Finally, our voices are being heard, and right now heads need to roll. And, I'm very disturbed. I've been disturbed with Keir Starmer from the beginning, but I'm so...
It just gets worse and worse, though, doesn't it? And what do you think Trump's going to do about it? I mean, we had Seb Gorka, who's now going to work with Trump as his advisor. He's a regular on the show.
Put Trump on the back burner a little bit. Let Musk get him. I'm just like, sick him.
Well, he
baby.
is.
Are we too, Cindy, are we too reliant on one person, Donald Trump?
No, you're not. No, you're not. I think that once heads roll and once the British people, I think they know what's going on. Okay, that's why the majority of your country wants an investigation.
Well, that's the thing. We all know what's going on. So That's why the investigation should be secondary. We know what's happened. It's very clear what's happened, and there's a lot of people responsible for it.
But you're not very dramatic kind of people. I'm like, let me go there and kick the doors in myself.
Yes.
You know, this is how we're born and raised. You're born to be proper and a little bit more reserved, and that's okay. That's not, hey.
Well, also, it's been shut down by being accused of far right and imprisoning people for, social media posts.
That's being shoved down your throat as well. You're bad, bad, bad if you speak up.
And you'll go to prison.
I'm here to say you're not. Speak up, people. Speak up. There could be children. God knows. God knows. I'm all over this story.
Are you fine? But Cindy, is it happening in America?
I know it is. There's child trafficking. There's like 30,000 children that have gone missing through the borders because of Biden.
Wow.
Well, what are we supposed? It's like we don't even have a chance to say inquiry because they're denying it. Trump's going to get in here January 20th. He's going to get sworn in, and from there we go.
Absolutely. All right, Cindy, thank you so much. I want to read this message very quickly. Oh, we can show the James Whale video.
We'll do that in a bit.
All right, we'll show it in a bit. All right. I can cope with this person has asked to be anonymous, by the way. I can cope with not getting the winter fuel payment, but with the hikes in energy costs, I rarely have any heating on. At the moment, I'm undergoing cancer treatment and not really getting out and about. I find myself very isolated as I ignore visitors because it's so cold in my house that I'm embarrassed to let them in. Is this my reward for working 46 years? I lost jobs with depression, but I chose to keep getting back out to work. Now I see people who never attempted to work being better off than I am. I do wonder why I bothered. I don't qualify for anything because I get the new state pension of £11,400 a year. Life for me, living alone, feels helpless at times. Surely it can't get any worse. I don't want sympathy. I don't want help, but there must be so many people like me. Amen to that. I think there are people like you.
And he's on 11 grand. If you come on a little boat, you're in accommodation that costs 44 grand a year, plus other stuff, you'll end up with about 60, 70 grand. That's the equivalent of a 90 grand wage. I mean, it's crazy, and old people are freezing. Ex-servicemen are sitting in doorways, freezing to death.
By the way, somebody wants us to have a go at the Brook Health Centre. I don't know who they are, so I think we'll avoid that.
I think they're great.
Also, somebody said, Andre, can you stop shouting? No, I can't, because of my hearing problem.
Oh, look, the Panasonic answer machine is flashing. I think it's someone called Matt.
Now, I don't know what on earth's going on with Ash's foundation that he's knocked up there, but I've had to turn the brightness up so high. Andre, you're quite pale, so you've disappeared, so I've just got Ash on the right.
Yeah, well, someone's tweeted and said he looks like a milk bottle. But yeah, I've been doing it because I did put too much on last night, so for continuity reasons, I've gone the older. My hands are pale because I always wear gloves when I'm sunbathing. Just got back from Mauritius.
If he was at the BBC, they'd ban him, wouldn't they? They'd go. He's deliberately impersonating ethnic minorities. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not Justin Trudeau. No, it's not that bad, is it?
Look at my hand next to you. Look at that.
Well, look at mine.
Look at that.
Oh yeah.
Crazy.
It's like grading, isn't it?
Crazy. I'll tell you what, I get the factor 30 out. Look at that.
Fantastic,
that is the whitest thing you've ever
like
seen.
Marble.
Right,
shall we go to Les?
It is because of the blue veins.
The Ken in London to spread the word and make sense. Hallelujah, Ken. Welcome on board.
Thank you very much, Ash and Andre. Listen, I come onto your show often, and I thank you very much for allowing me free speech.
Yes.
And I would like to come onto your show every night.
Oh, I don't know about that.
But I've got bad news.
We're not on every night.
People.
Yes.
What's the bad news, Ken?
With this. We're watching this situation right now in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And people are saying this is like the apocalypse. This is not the apocalypse. The apocalypse means the revelation of Jesus Christ when he returns in judgment.
So it's not that.
I want to say this to you, men, and everybody who's listening. You may be mockers of Jesus and the Bible. That's entirely up to you.
Don't start that
But
again.
I want to tell you there's a time of judgment coming, And I would encourage everyone tonight to read the book of Revelation, chapter 6. It's about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Oh, that old chestnut. What happens in that? Can you give us a little précis of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse?
Well, we'll talk here about the pale horse. If you read it in the
Tell us about the pale horse.
And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. When the beginning of God's judgment begins in the book of Revelation, chapter 6, 1/4 of the world's population is going to be killed under the coming judgment of the Messiah. He is coming. He's sending, before he comes, he sends the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And right now, all over the world, there are Christians who are so concerned about people. They're not concerned about their own life. They're warning the world. We have to waken up, because the judgment of God is surely coming, men. And I would encourage you, men, to humble yourself and say, Jesus, I don't understand who you are. I don't know who you are, but can you help me to come to know you? Whatever is in your heart. You don't need to go to a church.
Because that's what happened to you, didn't it? You said that, and you actually you got some spiritual input.
Hang on a second. Jesus came into your heart, then you had a heart attack, Ken.
Yeah, but that's when you heard the voice, didn't you?
Oh, I was saved before I had the heart attack. I was saved driving down the highway in my truck in Canada 44 years ago, when I repented of my sins.
Ken, can I ask you this question? Lois McClatchy Miller came on. Presumably, you're a supporter of hers because she is a Christian, a staunch Christian. But she said that one of the problems that we've had with grooming gangs, and she said it in a sensitive way, perhaps better than I will say, is that there has been a breakdown of the family. There's been a breakdown of Christian values, and that has made girls more vulnerable. Now, that is not victim blaming. That is to say that that we have to accept that we have allowed a circumstance to develop where families are broken up, where there are no fathers at home, and where girls and children are allowed to run the streets rather than receiving the proper care and support that they need. What's your view on that?
I would totally agree with that. You see, God has given... You see, when you drive down the highway, there's signs on the highway. Speed limit 60, speed limit 40, speed limit even 20 in built-up areas. But those warnings are given to protect us. They're not to help us.
Not the 20 mile an hour one. It was to drive us off the roads, Ken.
No, but in Canada, there was a big trouble in Canada. There was kids getting killed outside the school, and they put the limits down.
Outside schools makes sense, but they use it in other areas.
But anyway, let Ken make the...
Sorry, I'm just being a practical point. Nothing to do with Jesus.
I'm just using this as an illustration.
Okay.
These signs are to protect us. Yeah. Now, God's word gives us warnings. You can think I'm a madman. I'm not, but I don't care if you...
I don't think you're a madman.
Warnings. He gives us warnings in the Bible because he loves us. He doesn't. God is willing that none should perish, but all... That is the revealed will of God, our Creator, that none should perish in hell. But we can go against his will, we can reject his will, we can choose to live our life the way we want, turn our back on the Messiah, the Savior, and go to hell. So I warn you regularly about it. My heart is so concerned when I see the world situation all setting up, all in accordance with Bible.
Ken, can I just say one thing to you? You're going to go crazy about this, but I'm doing a Masonic initiation tomorrow where I'm personally presiding. Are you angry?
Andre, you're bringing the curse of God upon you and your family and others. You're bringing the curse of God.
I think that means he is. What is it? What is it about this thing tomorrow, and why don't you like the Freemasons?
I'm initiating 2 new Freemasons tomorrow.
The Freemasons is a religious cult which is a deadly cult in the Western world. It's in the Catholic Church. It's in the Church of England.
But I'm sitting next to him, man.
Folks everywhere. But when you
Ken, I'm not a cult.
The Masons.
It sounds like that, but it's.
Andre, you say you believe in Jesus.
I do.
Do you believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God? Andre?
Yes.
Do you believe he is God manifest in the flesh?
I do.
Well,
so what's the problem?
Your sins tonight, Andre. In the name of Jesus, and love for you. I love you, man. But for you, Andre and Ash, I would encourage you tonight to say, Jesus, I want to know you.
Well, tomorrow I'll be going to the Masonic Temple in Covent Garden to praise.
What, by Lord Ali's penthouse?
To praise the great architect of the universe. Ken, thank you so much. I'm only joshing with you, Ken. We do like you calling up. Let's go to a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, this is Talk. By the way, Andrew in Warrington keeps texting to say I'm a grand poobah and I talk rubbish and Ken makes his piss boil. Why do we put him on? I think we should. Andrew should phone up 0344 499 1000. You can speak to Fariza. She will take your call. She can do it in English, Russian, and Kazakh. I believe if you speak any of those languages, then she can do that. The Kazakh is not as useful, perhaps, as.
By the way, because we had Errol Muskin watch on Twitter at Virtual Ash at Andre JP Walker. Someone's tweeted, you should let him know that Tommy's been in prison 5 times and isn't allowed to run for Parliament. I don't think that counts in this country.
No, absolutely
I remember Bobby Sands was in prison and became an MP. You could actually be in prison and become an MP, although going to the events is going to be a bit more difficult.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
There's no bar like in America.
No, you can run. You can be. You can run. You can be a convicted criminal and run for office. There is some talk about publicly stating what candidates have as a criminal record. I don't know whether that's...
But you can remove an MP in recent years if they get a sentence of more than 6 months with a by-election.
Anyway, somebody's asked, what is the update on the white Porsche 911? Just to explain to you that my next-door neighbour constantly steals my car parking space.
But you haven't got a car.
I haven't got a car. He's got 2 cars.
It's your space.
He's got 2 cars and once, I have to say to you, once
it became a yellow Porsche 911.
No, it wasn't. That was a different car. And I got told off for selling that on there. But anyway,
nice,
Talk very kindly, because I finished late, send me a driver to take me home. He tried to park in my car parking space and somebody moved him on and said, excuse me, I need to park there. Anyway, I forgot to pay a council tax bill and the bailiffs phoned me up today and I was about to pay them when they said to me, if you don't pay by 5 o'clock, we're going to take the white Porsche 911 that's parked on your drive. And I went, oh, I've not got the money. So when we get back, we're going to see what's happened, which is going to be... So I just want to say, everyone at Jacob's Bailiffs in Liverpool, thank you so much. Treat yourself to that Porsche 911. OK, somebody said, ring me, it's gold. And yeah, OK. Right, so what else have we got? Can God pay my heating bill? Gemma has said, and somebody else said, and this is an anonymous one, most of the grooming gangs are free to roam. They can't be expelled from the UK because of some human rights bullshit from the lawyers. It's actually Article 8 of the Human Rights Act brought in by Tony Blair, which is you have a right to family life. So even though they've been convicted, even though they can be deported and have their citizenship taken off them, because their wives will be upset about it, that gives them the right to remain in the United Kingdom.
Never mind the rights of people, the public who get affected.
So just to be clear, you come over to Britain from Pakistan as a migrant, you are able to live in the United Kingdom, you get accused of raping 50 girls, you go to prison. When you get out, you can't be deported because your wife will be sad.
And then going on from that, you become a delivery driver and you deliver food to the girl you raped.
Which has happened.
They do actually see these people in the shopping centres.
Which has happened.
And the girls nearly have heart attacks.
OK, so there's a voicemail from Lyndon.
The Messiah is coming. Has he booked an Uber?
Probably not. He would be in a black cab, wouldn't he?
OK.
Or a limousine.
OK. Do you remember? I'm going to go to the next caller. But I remember the great TV show Spitting Image was absolutely brilliant.
When it was good years ago.
The week that Michael Heseltine, sorry, the week that Margaret Thatcher lost the leadership of the Conservative Party, what happened was Michael Heseltine, on Spitting Image broadcast this, that Michael Heseltine had challenged God to be the supreme governor of the universe. God had failed to make the quota in the first round, and Satan had entered the race. And it showed God leaving the pearly gates, going, I'm leaving heaven for the last time. I'm rather pleased that it's rather better than when I invented it an infinite number of years ago. And that was it. Loved it.
The Panasonic answer machine's flashing. We've got a message. Is it Phil, is it?
Is it?
Don't know. Let's
I thought we were going to Les in Chester.
Oh, never mind that.
Les in Cheshire. Come on, Les.
Hi, Andre. Ash, how you doing?
Man.
Good.
Right, now, here's something to unpick for you. Right, Nigel Farage, ITV, gave a statement saying Shameen Begum should come back to Great Britain.
Yeah. He didn't say that, apparently. He didn't say that. He's come out and said he's denied that.
Yeah, well, I've cancelled my membership for the Reform Party.
Well, no, it's wrong. He didn't say it. You've got that wrong.
What did he say?
Well,
what he actually said, because I've read it, I'm going to have to paraphrase. There is pressure for Shamima Begum to come back, but I've never been a supporter, so it is difficult. What he's basically saying is, just to explain this Shamima Begum situation...
We've actually got the clip.
Yeah, actually, OK, let's just do the clip then.
I've never wanted to. I've instinctively never wanted to. And I'm now thoughtful. I'm thoughtful. I don't classify her as an all-out ISIS killer. So she's sort of she is a lesser part of the equation.
Do you think the UK government should listen to this? Do you think they should be considering bringing back some of these ISIS supporters back to the UK?
I think what Gawker has done is started a debate, not one that I wanted to have, and not one the British government wanted to have, but now we're going to have.
Just to explain to you, the argument for bringing Shamima Begum back, which was expressed by Sebastian Gorka, is that it is unfair to leave the Kurds dealing with all of these foreign fighters and foreign terrorists. Equally, they expect the Kurdish forces that are holding Shamima Begum to be defeated within the next 48 hours by Turkish forces and the new Syrian government.
But what Seb Gorka's forgetting, well, he's not forgetting, he knows, but if she was exported to America, she'd get 40 years in a Supermax prison here. Nothing like that, and she'll become a celebrity. So, you know, maybe they could arrest her and take her to America if she's part of ISIS.
One of the producers said this to me earlier. The big problem is she'd get a column in The Guardian. She'd be venerated by the BBC. She would become a millionaire if she came to Britain. Yeah. In America, they'd lock her up and throw away the key. We will worship this woman. And remember, the reason that we have been such a nightmare to Shamima Begum is because we wanted to stop other young people doing it. What she wanted to do was commit terrorism in Syria and Iraq, and then afterwards retire to a life on the social.
But anyway, America would have the right to arrest her, wouldn't they, as an ISIS enemy of America? Okay. But let's speak to Les in Cheshire. Go on, Les, you heard what he said then?
Yeah, I heard what he said, yeah, OK then, so I got that wrong. However...
So you're not going to cancel your membership?
Yeah, okay. I've cancelled the membership anyway, based on the fact that, okay, Maggie Oliver is doing a great job in relation to these grooming gangs,
Yeah.
And the fact is that Stephen Lennon also brought this to the forefront.
He did.
Tommy Robinson, yeah.
He's in prison. He's in prison for it. Now,
well, he's not in prison for that exactly, but yeah.
He's in prison because
he's a political prisoner, Ben Habib was.
But at the end of the day, he still came out with it because it was going on in his town in Luton. And the thing is, they're trying to give now Maggie Oliver a dameship because of what she's done. And that's just to silence her.
She won't be silent, though. She'll use that as a further platform. You aren't going to silence Maggie Oliver.
So hang on a second. Can I ask you this, Lee? Would you, if you were the Prime Minister, knight Tommy Robinson for services to justice, namely supporting the victims of grooming gangs?
Well, no, I wouldn't knight anyone.
Okay.
The thing is like, let's look at it this way. The post office scandal. Okay, Alan Bates. He got knighted as a stare. Yeah? I've not heard anything from him since.
No, he does tend to be in the background, but he refused an OBE. He refused an OBE a few years ago because Paula Vanel's had a CBE. She gave it back and they took it off her anyway.
I'm sure he would have stuff to say. I mean, it is going through and positive action is being taken. I'm sure he will have stuff to say if it's not going through.
Alan Bates, to be honest with you, can I just explain something about Sir Alan Bates? The reason that he takes a back seat is because he feels that there are other people who are more egregiously harmed, like Seema Misran is her name, and a few others. So he tends to push them to the front. So he works in the background in reality.
Okay. Let's look at another one. Claire Fox, Baroness Claire Fox, who was an MEP, who was a UKIP also a membership. She's been silenced because she was given a dameship.
But she speaks out. She comes on talkTV.
Okay, I've got to be honest with you, Les. Please do me a favour. Let's not talk about Claire Fox's seat in the House of Lords, because the next guy coming on is from Warrington. And I just don't want to get into the whole Claire Fox versus Warrington thing, because I guarantee you, if Andrew knows who Claire Fox is, he's just going to eviscerate her in the next call. Anyway, thank you so much, Les. We're going to go to a break, then we're going to have Andrew from Warrington.
Across the UK, on DAB+, On your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, let's go straight to a voicemail from Fran.
What do you have to say about Tommy Robinson's comments on legalising marijuana in the UK?
You mean legalising it, I suppose he means, because it is illegal. But I was talking to you about this earlier. We had a caller in about 5 years ago, me and James Wales, and he was about 40-odd, and we were just chatting about something, and then he said, oh, I've got emphysema, and then I asked him, how have you got that? And he said, about 20 years ago, there was this skunk weed or something. It had bits of like sand in it. It was basically, they used to spray it with the stuff that the white lines reflect on the road to add weight. And he'd been smoking this stuff, and it had basically it was curtailing his life in his 40s. This must have been replicated across the country. We haven't really heard about that. But if you legalise it, you're going to regulate it so there's not all this stuff in it. And you look in the States, it's all successful out there. I mean, it's working very well. They have just recreational shops and all that kind. And it takes them away from drug dealers as well, who'll sell them other stuff and try and get them to other stuff. And, you know, they can end up getting stabbed. A lot of these gangs are making money from this. So I think, yeah, I mean, you take the lead from all the countries. Well, yeah, I mean,
the mental health problems associated with cannabis. I'll tell you why
apparently that's all. If you've got schizophrenia, you're actually, a lot of people are self-medicating it. Since they've had strong cannabis, the World Health Organisation has shown there isn't any increase in schizophrenia.
I'll tell you why I'm minded to say legalise drugs, very simply, because the amount of money the criminal gangs are earning just makes it impossible to stop.
Well, also, like heroin, people addicted to heroin should go to medical centres and other drugs like that where they can be monitored. No, we're not saying. I'm saying medicalise it rather than criminalise it, and have people going to where they have it and it's successful, rather than giving methadone, which is more.
I mean, and by the way, the stupidity.
And there's fentanyl contaminated, which just kill you.
The stupidity of giving somebody who's addicted to heroin a stronger drug because it's legal for prescription is just completely balmy.
By the way, I was reading about some I don't know if it was in Scotland or somewhere where they let people take crack. They're banning smoking in that room. You can have your crack because the crack people have to inhale it and they'll inhale the bad smoke. So anyway, yeah, it should be all medicalised, and I think cannabis should be obviously
I love the way the left want to legalise smoking cannabis and make it illegal to smoke tobacco. Just madness. OK, Andrew's in Warrington. Andrew, come on, have a go at me then.
It's like listening to Statler and Waldorf on the Muppets. Well, the pair of you stop talking over each other.
Well, I thought it was good. I thought it was.
Well, yeah, funny enough, I thought it was bad. On the radio...
We look like them as well, though, so that's all right.
Oh, well, yeah, listen, Ash, I can just... Listen, you just led with your chin. You certainly do. I'm a damn pooper, right?
You are?
Andre.
Are you on hand-free?
My father was... No, I'm not on hands-free. Oh. My father was a grand pooper, and good luck to you. But I tell you what, I do not want to listen about all the biblical things in the world. That's going to happen every day if you do not put me on this programme every night.
That's
Come
Ken.
on.
Well, yeah, but we don't want the wrath of Ken. Have you heard him when he gets angry? He calls everyone the Antichrist.
He gets really angry and he wants to make you eat a penguin that's been dipped in a hot cup of tea.
Well, I love that. Well, anyway, thank you, Andrew. It just went a bit
it's a bit surreal.
I like it, though. It's made me want a penguin.
It was almost like an episode of Shooting Stars with Vic and Bob.
I enjoyed that. Yeah, it was. I think that was Bob. Who we go? Timothy or Gaz in West Sussex?
Sorry, just to be clear,
Timothy.
Is that person actually called Timothy in North Wales? Because if they are, then I really think that we need to improve the spelling of some of the members of staff. Timothy, are you called Timothy?
Yes, Tim.
You're not called Timothea?
No, I am not called Timothy.
That's a double E she's got at the end. It's a new way of spelling. It's probably the Welsh way, isn't it?
No, I'm an Evans, but I'm not.
Can I tell you something? Me and my friends used to have a thing that we used to do, which I thought was quite good fun. We used to go through Facebook and find people with misspelt names and send it to each other. And we used to only attach the following saying, "It's the Irish spelling." Right, do you remember years ago when somebody would have a name that was misspelled and you go, but your name's just misspelled by your mum and dad, they go, "It's the Irish spelling." No, it's not.
That's apparently what happened to Oprah Winfrey. She was going to be opera or something, and they spelled
the worst story ever that I heard was a friend of mine, and he went out to register the birth of his child, and when he came back, his daughter was called Andrea and his son was called Andrew, right? And his wife went to him, Malcolm, why is Christopher called Andrew on the birth certificate? And he went, I've stopped off at the pub before I got to the registry office, got drunk, and when I got in, they said, what's your baby's name? And he said, the baby's called Andrea. And they went, but it's a boy. Surely it's Andrew. And he said, so I just said yes. But she said, well, but you were talking about the existing child, not the new one. So they had 2 children, Andrea and Andrew.
Well, that's a shame. Yeah, point I want to make with you, Per, is talk about Tommy Robinson running for an MP or anything, but he's eliminated with the Electoral Commission rules. If you've got a sentence over a year...
they can kick you out then, but you can be an MP and in prison. I remember Bobby Sands was in the late 70s, early 80s.
There's been some misunderstanding, and the misunderstanding is this. It is true that there are prohibitions if you've done... if you've been convicted of a crime that can get you over 6 months, you can't be a police and crime commissioner. You used to be banned from being an alderman of the City of London because they also sat as judges at the Old Bailey. That's not true anymore.
Also, if you're an MP, you can be voted out in a by-election if you get over 6 months.
I've got experience of this. I run for MP, and then I got caught with 14 plants. And
14 what? Pints?
No, plants, cannabis plants.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I got sentenced 2 years when they were hard on drugs, desperate to be seen to be hard on drugs. And in that, I served over a year of the 2-year sentence on the medical wing in Walton. And as a result of that, because I'd served over a year, I can't now apply with...
We'll look into that.
I
don't believe you're right. I believe that you can be...
I Googled it, right? And I've sent you a clip of that emailed into your programme.
Yeah, we saw that earlier, Andre's just Googled it. Hold on a minute, Timothy.
Yeah.
Language, Timothy.
Okay.
We just... Wait there, just... Is it?
Okay.
Let's hear from Steve Allen.
I think it's interesting that you mention about what you're going to do on the weekend about initiating a couple of guys in the Freemason in our organisation. But I ask you, if that is actually anything that has anything to do with anybody else, surely it's a very private thing, and that is what my main concern is. You know, the Freemasonry is becoming very, very open.
Well, we have the Grand Poobah right with me, so what is the... should he be worried about
By the way, it's a slightly more complicated thing about disqualified persons, but I'm just going to have to work this out and get back to you. Are you worried about Freemasonry? Well, I wouldn't be. Can I tell you the technical reason? It's to do with conspiracies, right? You can't hold a conspiracy where you've got no ability to galvanise other people, because every Masonic lodge is independent and they all sit and don't talk to each other. You can't conspire. There's nobody to conspire with. You don't know who the other people are in the lodge next door, and you certainly don't meet them. So if you want a conspiracy, what you need to do is bring people together, not section people off. Otherwise, you've got nobody to influence.
By the way, Andrew in Warrington, who we just spoke to, says, thank you for letting me speak. I stand my constructive criticism. He talks about dipping a penguin in a cup of tea. We all agree with that. Timothy, are you a satisfied customer? We didn't really get the answer.
No, we didn't get the answer. What we're going to do... No, we're going to go to a break, we're going to get the answer, and we're going to keep Timothy on. Back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, OK, we have clarified under what circumstances you are disbarred from running for the House of Commons. They are these. You've been convicted of an offence and sentenced to imprisonment for more than a year. You are disqualified for becoming a Member of Parliament, but only whilst you are in the prison. Right? That's the Bobby Sands amendment.
But Bobby Sands was in prison, so that must be a newer law from the after the 80s.
Also, if you've been convicted of a criminal offence for 3 months or more, then you are, and that includes suspended sentence, you're banned for 5 years, which of course would mitigate the first one. If you are currently signing the sex offenders register, you are not allowed to run. If you've been convicted of electoral fraud, you can't run for 5 years. So basically, the long and short, the very simple thing is, in general, if you committed a crime where you could have been sentenced to 3 months or more, even if you weren't sentenced to 3 months or more, you can't run for 5 years. Timothy, are you happy?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
You can stand again, Timothy. Have you been 5 years since you got out of Nick?
Yeah, it's
well, are you going to stand? What party would you stand for now if you were going to stand?
I'm a member of Reform, and I put down to be a candidate.
Do you think you'd pass the test? That, he's got very high standards.
I think if I'm honest with you, I genuinely think that if you want to be a Member of Parliament and you were convicted of having some cannabis years ago, even if you went to prison, I'd be tempted to declare it, simply because I think there's a big difference between being done for, say, a sex offence and being done for having a few cannabis leaves for yourself. That's my own.
Also, they could use it as a way to shut people down. A rogue government could imprison someone. I mean, obviously, that would never happen. Oh, yeah, it has. But, I mean,
I was disabled at the time, and I was just growing the plants for my own relief.
Well, now they do have medical cannabis in this country.
I'd be very...
It's very difficult to get it, though, and I'd need like £2,000 a month.
I'd be
£2,000.
very, very surprised, Timothy, if any sensible political party banned you on that basis. So you were growing your own medical cannabis for something that you've been diagnosed with as a genuine medical condition.
Oh yes.
You shouldn't have done it, and it sounds like the prison sentence was harsh, but you're good to go. Anyway, thank you. Gary is in Sussex.
Hi guys. Well, it just seems to me that people are noticing their differences with others and with other groups and whatever religions. They don't realise or recognise what they've got in common. Like, we all have the same colour blood. We're all human. We all do this, that and the other. You know what I mean.
Yes.
Eating and the rest of it. I can't understand. It seems to me that the world at the moment is so polarised, and I can't understand.
Do you think it's because of social media?
Well, that might play a part in it. I'm sure that plays a part in it, but you can't blame it completely on that. The news, a lot of the news that we get, let's face it, a lot of news editors on these channels, they just pluck something out of the air and say, oh, well, we'll put this in. And they don't really necessarily really have any sort of interest in what is right or what we want to be talking about.
Well, we don't have conviction politicians, it's very few and far between, isn't it, Harry?
We have politicians with conviction if Timothy runs.
Got a lot of laws with convictions.
But look, Gary, I will say one thing. I think sometimes we overstate the case of how much we don't work together. Because if you think about it, we might be very critical of, say, the Islamic world, but we will still watch the football in Qatar. We'll still buy products from them. I mean,
yes.
Most of you who've been very critical of Israel haven't participated in the boycott of Israeli products. Most people haven't. Some people have. And so actually, you're still buying stuff from Israel, even though you might not agree with the government's policy. Similarly, there are still people going to Russian restaurants and having Russian friends and that sort of thing. Freezer goes regularly.
We are all, really, I think, myself included, we are all hypocrites. we are all supporting something, and we are really contradicting it in our behaviour and our habits and our lives.
But we never used to be like that. It's got worse, hasn't it, though, Gary, don't you think?
Yes, it's just become... The whole world seems to become so polarised.
And angry.
Yeah,
no.
Angry, evil.
Angry.
Yes.
But see, I think anger, Gary, I think anger can be a good thing. I don't agree with the College of Policing. I think that people who come on this show, call in or listen to it or watch it, I think it gives them an opportunity, an outlet to discuss the things that they think and get it off the chest. No problem was ever resolved by letting it fester.
No, and I think... Now, what I'm going to say might sound a bit silly, but I think... these people that are like this Andrew Tate, whatever his name is, if they got into a knitting academy to do something calming and relaxing and say all this, I don't know what all this is.
You think Andrew Tate
about,
should take up knitting and that would solve all the problems?
Well... I'm not saying that I have all the answers.
You just said that.
You
said Andrew.
Do you think Tommy Robinson should take up knitting?
Well, he'd be less bored, wouldn't he, in solitary?
Well, what sort of thing? What sort of thing? No, I'm taking this...
I did knitting as a kid. I could only go in a straight line, but it was quite therapeutic, actually. And I became much less violent.
What would Andrew Tate knit?
And balaclava, probably, wouldn't he? It might encourage it, yeah.
He might knit... he might knit a pattern of the world.
Prince Charles, what?
Are you a knitter, Gary?
Have you been drinking, Gary?
I am a painter and a drink. Yes, Ash is right. He knows I've been through before.
I've got to be honest with you.
Just tell now.
Gary, we do get messages saying that our callers are not all doing dry January this year.
Well, someone's got to keep it up, haven't they? Supporting the brewers and that.
That doesn't matter, but the whole point that I'm making is that there's so much that you can enjoy in nature, in the landscape, in art.
Craft. Yeah, you're right. No, I mean, people should be more into the arts and all that. You know, it's nice, isn't it, to do a bit. It does take your mind somewhere else and walking around. Yeah, okay. So, where are you? Are you in Brighton, Gary?
No.
Where are you? Eastbourne?
No,
Salisbury.
I'm not going to say exactly, but I'm not...
Well, you just said Salisbury.
No, not Salisbury. I'm sort of halfway between Brighton and London, put it that way. Right. But where I am,
Croydon.
I don't think it's really that relevant because...
Well, the people are interested in your background. Anyway, Gary, thank you so much. OK, why Andrew in Warrington is now calling himself Andre on the text messages, I don't know. OK, and so Gemma has said, I believe this is an important fact about the state of our NHS, or I prefer to call it the NHS. There's no compassion. There are career doctors and career doctors and nurse hell-bent on ticking boxes.
And over-management, yeah.
OK, let's go to Robert in Hertfordshire. Robert, you're on top.
Hello, guys. How are you? Well, this ain't what I phoned you up for, but talking about knitting, you know what's better than knitting? Scooby-Doos. Do you remember Scooby-Doos? They were bits of plastic.
What's that?
And well, it's like 4 bits of plastic, and you weave them together, and then you made like key rings and things. They sold
They do have things for kids like that, craft.
Wait, sorry, have you been taking ketamine?
What about Meccano, Rob? Meccano.
Have I been taking drugs? You've just been talking to someone who's been nicked for puffs.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yes. Do you remember Meccano? That was nice. I had that as a kid. I had the crane set. It was amazing, Meccano.
Yeah, well, my mate used to be a collector. I mean, I had one of the very first Meccano sets, and my dad used to go mad when he trod on a nut or a bolt.
Well, he would do, yeah.
It's technical now.
People don't have train sets anymore as well. Why don't people have train sets?
I wanted to buy my nephew a train set and use it first.
Yeah, they're not.
I'll tell you what I bought my nephew some hex bugs a few years ago.
What's that?
It was this thing where they walked round like that's not me having a problem. They walked round the course. You know, you used to get cars and you're driving round. Yeah. These things could walk up.
All right. Fantastic, man.
Might get some more hex.
You learn a lot on this show.
They used to have a really good Hornby shop in Holborn. They closed it down now, but it used to be like a model making shop.
Oh, amazing,
yeah. Right, what I phoned you up for, I received my second letter from Nigel asking Reform if I wanted to stand as councillor.
Yes.
Now, it's scraping the barrel a bit. I mean, he don't know who I am.
You're saying asking for you is scraping the barrel?
No, in fact, actually, I will tell you because I happen to know. I've got friends in the Conservative Party who are on the mailing list for Reform. They sent that out to everyone. There is a vetting procedure that will sit behind it.
You've upset him now. We thought they'd asked him.
Yeah, but don't they realise there's not going to be any elections? There ain't going to be none.
Well, no, there will be in some areas. There won't be in counties.
Yeah, they won't be in the 50 towns. They won't be in the paedophile towns either, will they? Because that's going to be a losing battle.
No. To be fair, I'm going to say one thing. I appreciate you making a joke there, but the towns that have been affected by grooming gangs are not affected by this. What's happening is they're proposing to abolish district and county councils and merge them into super authorities. Those county councils, there are 21 of them, are proposing to not have elections, or at least some of them.
It's the ones where they worried about Reform getting in that they're going to...
Yeah, that's right. And if you want to know more about it, go to my YouTube channel and you just search Andre Walker. And my latest video explains the whole thing. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to explain the whole thing to you, Robert, simply because it's explained on a video on my YouTube, and I want you to go and check that out right now.
Well, no, in a few minutes.
No, just forget this show.
No, we've got Mark in Manchester.
Mark in Manchester, you're on talk.
I was talking about the Scooby-Doos. Everyone knows about the Scooby-Doos. I'm in my 40s now.
We did.
Where's the Scooby-Doo?
We missed out on Scooby-Doos.
The Scooby-Doo.
I mean, Scooby-Doo to me was a cartoon dog. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We've got some work to do now. And it was Scrappy-Doo ruined it.
Shaggy. Every time I phone, it's like, where's Lewis Perry? When are you going to bring him back on?
She was on last night. She was on last night.
I know, for what, 5 minutes talking about fucking... Oh, sorry.
20 minutes.
20. Oh, I missed that.
That terrible word.
You got to bring her back on, man. Everyone misses Lewis Perry. Right,
she's just been on though. You know.
I missed her again. Bloody hell. You know what? I phoned you up at your show. You know, speaking to Ian Lee, and he's on his own YouTube show. So you got to get Ian Lee back on your show.
Right,
He quit radio, man. He quit it.
Sorry, Ian Lee is now a councillor.
Yeah, he's a very, very good one, apparently, yeah. Very good one.
He used to live near my mate in Windsor. I bumped into him at Windsor Newton Riverside Station.
He's a good lad, all right.
He's all right, actually.
And Kath.
He used to do quite a good impersonation of me.
Did he?
Well, they all sort of talk like Johnny Vegas, don't they? Johnny Vegas.
Mark, well, that is Mark in Manchester.
Mark, where are you in Manchester? I want to know.
Yeah, where are you, man?
Ashton-under-Lyne.
Oh, really?
Where? Oh, Ashton-under-Lyne.
Can I tell you an amazing fact about Ashton-under-Lyne? Yeah. Isn't that where they built the new stadium, the Man City Stadium?
What, the council one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the problem is they wanted to buy the houses from people for what they were worth, but they weren't worth anything. So they had a real problem, didn't they?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, what's Manchester like now? What's Manchester like now, Mark?
Mad.
Do they still walk like they've shut their pants?
Pint of lager.
I've just shut my pants.
For a pint of lager.
All right.
I'll tell you what, I used to work in Salford, and whenever I used to make a lewd joke...
No one works in Salford.
When I used to make a lewd jokes, they'd go, you scrubber. Scrubber.
Scrubber.
Scrubber. OK, brilliant. I will see you very soon, Mark. By the way, Andrew has said, let's have a pint at the Wetherspoons in Warrington, which is called the Friar Penketh pub in Warrington. It's got that glass floor. By the way,
what do they use that for?
Just near the Friar Penketh pub in Warrington is a brilliant shawarma kebab shop. Absolutely superb.
Shawarma.
Anyway, this is the end of the show. Catch me on YouTube at Andre Walker. Get him at Virtual
Still
Ash.
got another minute and a bit, haven't we?
And I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to start getting back to what we used to do, which is when people follow us on Twitter, we're going to read out their names, because that is a good way.
At Virtual Ash at Andre JP Walker.
If anyone adds us now, we'll go for it.
Check it now, because you'll see some great clips from earlier, from Elon Musk's dad. And
he was brilliant, Elon Musk, wasn't he?
He does. He's like a chip on the old block, isn't he?
A chip of the old block.
A chip of the old block. And,
OK, well, nobody's followed us, so... we'll thank Jeanette for following me. We'll thank all the people who've reposted.
You can see James Wales' message as well at Virtual